Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special bonus episode of Back to the Blockbuster. My name is Gaius Bowling, and this should be a very fun one tonight because last month I was looking at the calendar while I was trying to figure out the schedule for upcoming episodes, and I noticed that May 13th fell on the Friday, and I think it's the only Friday the 13th we have in 2022. So, kind of in the middle of an already packed, busy schedule, I wanted to try to do a special Friday the 13th episode just about the franchise as a whole. I was going to make it work no matter what. Our co host Owen wanted to be on originally, but we're kind of recording on an off day. We usually record on Mondays at 7 my time. I'm on the West Coast. And he worked at 3 a.m. today. So he was like, I can't be on, but please go balls to the wall with the special guests that you have on. And what we've noticed every time that we have special guests on the show, every good special guest happens to like live in the Midwest or the East Coast. So we always have to work around their time, which is we're more than happy to do. So that's kind of how it worked out today. But today, one of the guests we have on, we actually have Dave Gonzalez on from founder of RealTalkInc.com and also the Real Chronicles podcast. I used to write for Real Talk Inc. Back in the day and was on that podcast for a little bit as well. And it's kind of nice to kind of have a little reunion on a podcast episode of my own. So welcome, David, and thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here. It's been a long time since you and I have recorded together. This should be a fun one. I'm very much looking forward to breaking down this franchise.
Yeah, it should be really fun. The other than like we've kind of like popped in and out on there's like this League of Cinephiles thing that's on that they've been doing on Instagram and like YouTube that's been really fun for like all the cinephiles that are in that little group. So we've kind of run into each other there again, but this will be our first like full on podcast conversation in a very long time, and it's on a very fun topic that we both are very passionate about, and just how like silly and ridiculous and fun it is. So it should be a pretty entertaining conversation.
Absolutely.
And then I'm going to introduce Stu here. Stu is the host of the Stu World Order podcast, and I actually, when I was putting kind of feelers out on Instagram and Twitter, he was one of the ones I noticed because he kind of was like, "Hey, I'd be more than happy to be on." Because he was like, he has a very interesting multiple Jasons theory, which I haven't heard yet, but we're going to talk about it on the show today. I just thought that stood out the most, and happy to have you on as well.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I call them the Jason movies. It's just easier. I love them. I did with Pinto Comics, another podcast. We did a series from like 2020 to 2021 where we watched all of them and we did video reviews on them. I told my wife I was recording on this tonight and she's like, how much can you talk about the Jason movies? I was like, how many opportunities are there? Because the amount that I can do is all.
And that is perfect. Since we already have you right now, why don't you tell us a little bit about what your podcast is like all about?
Sure. So the Stu World Order podcast is random comic book movies. And what that means is I have a list of, I think right now it's 1 to 115 movies based on comic books. And I get guests that come on before they record. They give me 3 numbers. I tell them like, hey, here's the 3 movies you drew, and then they get to choose the one out of those 3 that they want to discuss. So like every episode, it's completely random. We'll do some good ones, we'll do some bad ones, and they're pretty much bite-sized episodes that I have like 35 to 45 minutes. We get in, we talk the ups and downs of the movie, and then we give it a rating. And in addition to that, I have a website, swoproductions.com, where every weekday we have new articles, and I write a lot about horror stuff over there, to the point where I have a particular series that I write a new entry on every Friday the 13th. And like you said, I just kind of looked at the calendar 2 weeks ago and was like, oh crap, there's a Friday the 13th. I got to do a horror movie article for this month. So I got that done. It's coming out this Friday as of the date we're recording. I got a new one of those where I'm talking about the streaming service Shudder.
Nice. And circling back to David, David has accomplished a lot in the time that I've known him. On top of like the website and the podcast, he is also officially Rotten Tomatoes certified, which is awesome. Are you I mean, is it awesome? Have you gotten the like kind of like social media like, hey, you didn't like my movie, I'm mad at you now thing yet, or is or is it too soon?
So no, not too soon. I've actually gotten followers that have reached out that I've known for years that are fans of Rotten Tomatoes and pretty much thrown shade my way. They're like, "Oh, so you're gonna be one of that? You're gonna be part of the cult right now?" And I'm like, you know what? I am, and I think you got, you know me, G. I'm a very blunt person. I pretty much thrown the the facts their way, and I'm like, I think you guys should do an analysis what Rotten Tomatoes really is, rather than just
Yeah.
saying you guys are reviewing my movies poorly. No, it's an aggregate site. Do your research, look at all the reviews, and then come back at me, and then we can have a mature conversation about me being on Rotten Tomatoes. It's definitely been surreal. I mean, I've been on Rotten Tomatoes for now 3-4 months. It took a lot of work. I run the site, and G knows I run the site. It's just me and my wife. It's a 2-man team, and we've been running. She is my savior. She's my editor. So I wouldn't be here without her. So a lot of hard work. Definitely going to keep pushing. But yeah, the Rotten Tomato stuff has been I've a lot of positives, but some negative responses as well.
As well, yeah. And of course, behind every man is a strong woman. So I mean that even when I was over there, it was just always kind of you and her running that ship, and the fact that like it's still as successful in doing as well, and you guys are doing the podcast and now Real Chronicles. I mean, I wanted to describe it in the right way. So there's the Real Chronicles podcast, and then there's also the Chop Talk thing it's associated
Yes.
with it as well.
So a couple of months ago, Kurt, who will be joining us a little later, he and I were having this conversation. He's also a member of the League of Cinephiles, just on horror. And he's like, hey, dude, whenever you want me to be on, I love 80s horror as much as you do. Why don't you let me know and invite me? And then my brain works all the time. So I'm here thinking, I'm like, why don't I just spin off and do something a little different and just focus on 1980s horror? So we created Chop Talk, and what we do on Chop Talk is pretty much break down a variety of films from the 1980s. We're hitting our third episode coming up in a few weeks. We're going to look at John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness. And one of the main reasons that we started this podcast was not just to focus on 80s horror films that everyone knows, but focus on more obscure films. Like the first one we covered was one of my favorite and a very obscure film, Society. And I have
the shunting.
There you go. I want to give a shout out to In Search of Darkness, which is one of the best horror documentaries I've ever seen. And they are the ones that put me onto Society. I saw it and immediately fell in love with it and all its craziness. And I've gone on record on a podcast. I think it's the most underrated practical effects body horror usage in the 1980s. We all know about The Fly. We know about The Thing, but putting movies like this on Front Street is something that I've loved to do, and I will continue to do. So be on the lookout for some great horror content on Chop Talk.
Yeah, it's a really. I listened to the first episode when it dropped, and I was in the middle of the second one maybe an hour ago. The funny thing about like Society, I think I discovered that watching In Search of Darkness, and it's one of those things like when you're a horror fan, you think that you've seen like everything already, and then when they showed like whatever clip they show from that, I was like, I've certainly not seen everything. And it was so funny. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. No, I was gonna say I had the same feelings that you do when I first saw the clip of just the butt face, and that's the most tame part of the practical horror in that movie, which is just shows how insane that movie is. But it also has a great allegory about the rich sucking the life from the poor, and that's kind of like where I took what that meaning of that last 20 minutes was.
Yeah, I was when I was listening to it, it was so weird because you guys were talking about Billy Warlock, and like my mom is like a huge like soap opera fan. So when I was like little, she used to go to this thing called like Super Soap Weekend. It was like basically a convention for like soap operas, and their stars would go and like meet with fans. And he used to be on General Hospital back in the day. And my mom is trying to dig it up, but she had to take me with her to one when I was a kid, and we took a picture with him. And so that's my Billy Warlock connection. Yeah, he played AJ Quartermain on General Hospital, and she still loves that show. But it's funny that you mentioned him. And I was like, yep. I remember I was like forced to go because there was no one that could watch me, and I was young, and she had to take me with her. And it was like it's like their Comic-Con for soap operas back in the day. I don't think they do it anymore because like soaps aren't as big as they used to be, but it was huge for her then. And yeah, that name always makes me remember that. And I had to stand there like I knew who he was. Like, hey, dude, I'm a big fan. I have no idea who you are. No idea who you are. But yeah, I like the idea behind that podcast too, because like even though we're talking about Friday the 13th for this, there's so many obscure horror films that people don't know from that time period or they don't talk about enough. So it's very much like in my wheelhouse for listening to, and I'm glad you guys are doing it. And it's a really good pair. Or I guess now there's like a trio, right? There's you, Kurt, and Jack.
Yeah, so Jack is kind of the casual horror movie watcher that Kurt and I are trying to mold. So we brought him in as kind of like a first time watcher in all these movies, and it's work. We're not going to cover this movie anytime soon, but he recently saw this movie called Basket Case that I put him onto. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Yep.
And I don't think he's recovered from it. So he's great. He has great insight on film as a whole. So bringing him into this world of horror is was a treat. And I also think, I don't know if you guys agree with, I'm glad that we're covering Friday the 13th today, because I think the conversation, especially for us horror fans, has turned into more of a negative light on 80s horror. And I think conversations with you guys and Chop Talk and just any podcast dealing with horror should shine light on the positives of the genre during the 80s. I think it was one of the best decades of horror in terms of entertainment value. Yes, the quality in terms of the elevated horror may be great now, but I don't think anything touches the fun that I had watching movies from the 80s, especially Friday the 13th, which we're going to cover now.
Yeah, for sure. And this franchise has always been of the big ones, I would say, like, even though I'm a big Halloween fan, like Halloween's like one of my favorite movies. I think as a franchise as a whole of the big ones like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, I've probably watched the Friday the 13th franchise the most for entertainment value compared to the rest of them. Like I can casually like pop in one of those sequels and just like be totally fine watching them. I don't really like want to pop in Halloween 5 unless I'm marathoning it or something. And I think that's the key difference. Yeah, the quality isn't always that great, but the one thing that they're consistent with for the most part is that they're always fun and they are always entertaining. And that's what we're going to kind of get into. Just to kind of start for people that aren't aware, just like a quick little thing on Friday the 13th. Consists of 12 films. We have 10 that are in like the regular timeline. We have and then we also have Freddy versus Jason, and then the remake as well. It also spawned a television series that is connected in name only, really. A bunch of novels, comic books, video games, a ton of other merchandising. As a whole, the franchise has grossed $468 million worldwide, and it was the highest grossing horror movie franchise up until Halloween 2018 came out and bumped that franchise up ahead of it. But a lot of people were saying that this franchise, just in American media, like in media in general, is beyond the success it had at the box office. It's also such a pop cultural phenomenon where it's referenced a lot and other things as well. There are a lot of people make fan films that are out there based on Friday the 13th. And then the merchandising as well. I mean, I think every studio is happy when a film can kind of spawn off and create a bunch of merchandising that will make them a lot of money. And this is one of those franchises that has done that. So, despite the fact that when Paramount Pictures had this for the most part in the 80s, even though it was successful for the most part, they were very much like it was like their rotten stepchild a little bit.
Yeah.
Like they weren't entirely proud of it. But before we kind of get into specifics, I kind of want to know, I'll go to Stu first. When did you get into the franchise, as a whole? Like, was it when you were younger? Like, which film did you discover first?
Yeah, it was when I was younger. It was when I was far too young. I had parents who, whenever I was in like the mid single digits, were like, all right, we're going to watch all the horror movies. And I can remember being 5, 6, 7 years old in the apartment we lived in with my mom and my stepdad one night. And we just watched a couple of them back to back. And I mean, they terrified me as a little kid. I was just abjectly terrified of these movies, but I loved them. And I definitely remember one I definitively remember is going to the drive-in and seeing part 7. And based on
Yes.
when part 7 came out,
Nice.
I had to have been like 8 years old, 7 years old. So I'm at the drive-in as a 7-year-old kid watching Friday the 13th part 7 with my stepdad hiding in the back seat making like noises in the back seat trying to scare me. And I know I had seen ones before 7, but that's the first one I saw like when it came out. It wasn't just like renting a VHS and watching it with my parents at home. It was 7 that I definitely saw. And then just from then, man, it's just that nostalgia thing. I saw it as a kid. I associate it with good memories and funny times, and I've just always loved these movies. I watch them consistently. It's like the Halloween franchise to what you hearkened to before. Like I have probably watched Halloween, Halloween 4, Halloween 5, and several of the Jason movies more in my lifetime than I've seen any other movies, just because they're like seasonal. Like I watch several of them every Halloween or anytime there's like a Friday the 13th. I just watch these movies and I always like them. I mean, the movies have their flaws, but they're just so much fun.
I would agree. Dave, well, I'm pretty sure you were just as young as most of us was when we discovered it as well.
Yeah, so I was, and I remember this story vividly. I was 7 years old, and we had a local video store, and I was the downstairs section was when the horror section was, and one of the most beautiful things about 80s horror are VHS covers. So I was looking at just the horror section, and I see this box with a hockey mask and I believe a knife going through it and the blood coming out, and it was Friday the 13th part 4. And I asked my mom if I could rent it. She, coming from a Latino family, she doesn't really know the horror aspect, so she's like, sure, get it. My body was not ready for the most hardcore one out of all of them up to that point.
Yeah.
And kind of just picked up from there. After I kind of fell in love with the genre after that, and just completely was morphed into like this horror like aficionado that I just needed to watch as much horror as I could. I want to piggyback up what you guys were saying. Like Halloween is my favorite horror franchise, but exactly what you guys are saying. Like I only watch the Halloween movies when I have to. Every October, I watch through all of them. I can watch Halloween 1 at any time of the year, but when it comes to like Halloween 4 or 5, go on so forth, I watch them, in October. I feel like Friday the 13th is one of the only horror franchises that you can just sit down in the middle of January and just plug them all in and just have a good time. I feel like that's the most entertaining franchise of the big 3, Nightmare, Friday, and Halloween. So yeah, I've grown to love this franchise so much. I've even grown to love Jason Goes to Hell, which I can't wait to talk about later. Because I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know what I was thinking, and we're gonna get to it a little later. When I first saw it, I was like, what the hell is going on? And then and then as I got older, I'm like, oh, so this is what they're trying to do. Just not trying to be, Jason Takes Manhattan anymore. And yeah, I love this franchise. Can't wait to dive more into it.
Yeah, I was also very young. I think I was like 6, and I didn't see the first one first. I saw part 2 first. So that was my introduction to it, and I only knew about Jason, and I had a cousin who was older and had all the VHSs for them up until I guess Jason Goes to Hell. So I was like, well, I want to see the first one because I actually saw the second one on TV at a friend's house when I probably should have been seeing it. And I think like my parents, especially my mom, were very similar to Dave's, where like horror movies, she didn't really care if I watched them. I mean, actually, she's like in hindsight, she's like, maybe I should have like maybe paid more attention to what you were watching. But she was like, whatever, she was one of those people like, if you're gonna see it, you're gonna find a way to see it. So like I kind of did it all wrong. I did the second one, and then I watched the first one, and I was like, oh, he's not even in this uh, until like the end really. And but yeah, from there I just kind of fell in love with them. I think that, like you guys have said, it's the most fun of the big horror franchises, and I think it's because it knows exactly what it is. It's never really kind of pretended to be much more, which is why I don't think they've really cared when they've been like kind of ripped apart critically. Like they were like, all right, whatever, like we're not making these for you, we're making these for like all these teenagers who are going out to see it on like an opening Friday night, and that's who it's made for. So I'm pretty okay with horror films that are like there's prestige horror and all that stuff, and that's
Yeah.
good, and I'm about that. I'm all about that. Or what they call it, I think in the new Scream they called it elevated horror.
Elevated horror. is what they
Horror,
call
yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah. And then I'm also cool with stuff like this because like there is a audience for it and there's a time and place for it, and I know that like they're certainly the most fun to watch with like a group of people who like maybe aren't into like horror movies per se. They don't want to get too scared, but they kind of want to just have like a good kind of jump and kind of laugh. And like these are the perfect movies for that. And I've kind of learned to appreciate that over time. Like I think something like Jason X, which I think, or even Jason Goes to Hell, I remember not liking those movies that much, but even now I have an appreciation for those. I can actually be like, yeah, there's a place for you here as well. Like barely a place, but like
Barely.
a place.
Definitely barely.
Oh, that's so sad for me. I love Jason X unabashedly. Like you guys are gonna have to work on me on Jason Goes to Hell because I definitely have that as the worst of the entire franchise. But I unabashedly love Jason X. I had two friends of mine. They're like 3 or 4 years younger than us. They had never seen a single Friday the 13th. And I was over their house one night and we'd watched some movies and I was like, nah, this isn't going to happen. I said, we have to watch, and we have to at least start at part 2. I was like, you don't have to watch part 1. It's fine. Jason's not in it. I'll tell you what happens. Actually, just watch part 2. The first 10 minutes of 2 tells you what happened in 1. It's fine. So we watched part 2. We watched part 3. And that they seemed to enjoy it. They had a lot of fun because they're supposed to be fun. Like you're allowed to make fun of those movies. It's not like you're watching The Babadook and you can't have any like joy in making fun of this movie because it's dealing with serious subject matter. You can watch the Friday the 13th movies and laugh at whenever Paul's like, "Hey, you women, don't menstruate in the woods." Barefoot. That's just funny. You're supposed to enjoy that. And then the next time I went over, for some reason, we just skipped everything and went to X. I was like, that's a weird trilogy. You've seen 2, 3, and X now.
He's so confused.
Yeah. You saw Jason. He was doing his thing for a while. Now he's in space. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
It happens. Oh, Jesus. So like going into actually, I'm kind of curious, like going into the first movie a bit before you saw it for the first time, were you aware of what like the big reveal was going to be with the mom?
Because of Scream.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
nice.
that ruined it for me too. Yeah, definitely ruined it for me too.
I was aware before I saw Friday the 13th for the first time. I saw Friday the 13th for the first time well before Scream came out. It's possible I'm somewhat older than you two, but I saw Friday the 13th after I'd seen several of the other ones in the series, and I had just kind of picked up information like, oh, Jason's not in this one. It ends up being his mother. And of course, I'd seen part 2 and how it just shows you the end of part 1. So I was aware by the time I saw the first one.
Yep. And I think this one just turned like 42 on May 9th. So like just the other day. And came out May 9th, 1980. Made $39.7 million by the end of its run domestically, and it actually outgrossed a lot of other high-profile horror movies from that year, like The Shining, Dress to Kill, The Fog, and Prom Night. From what we've like heard them talk about is like there was a lot of inspiration from Halloween, right? They wanted to make this kind of simplistic, on a very low budget, kind of horror film, and I think if you were to kind of tell people which one is like, if I had to tell someone which one is a decent like film, like as a film, it's this one, right? Because it's like it's the one that tries the most to kind of be like a little bit of a murder mystery. It's not really. It is grounded a bit in reality. I think it's the one that tries the most to be like a good movie, as opposed to just like an entertaining movie.
I would agree. I would actually say, the conversation is always throw that Halloween is the first slasher. I'd actually say it's not. I actually put Friday the 13th as the first true slasher, because if you look at Halloween barely has one, it barely has any kills. Two, it barely has any blood. And three, it's more of the atmospheric horror that, some people call elevated horror today. I think Friday the 13th lays the groundwork for the slasher. And I do agree. I think it's the only one of the franchise that actually tries to be good.
It's probably the only one, or the one that's trying the hardest. Honestly, over on my website, I did a ranking of the entire Friday the 13th series, and I think it might upset people. I have this one like right in the middle. Like, it's fine. I think you're right. I think it's trying the hardest. I don't think it succeeds the hardest.
I mean, if you want to learn how to make coffee and how much time it takes you to make coffee, Friday the 13th is the perfect movie for you. I remember I've joked about this even when G was on our podcast. Like, it's unbelievable that Sean Cunningham said, like, you know what? Let's not cut that. I just want to see all of that.
Yeah, do we even know why we have that filler like 2 minutes, or is it? I don't know how long it is. It feels like it goes on forever.
About 4 minutes.
So like that could have gone to like adding on to like one of the kills. Could have like done anything with that time. And like I want to try to give them credit. This is like reaching. You know how sometimes in movies like that, your characters are like kind of doing nothing, but at least in the foreground, there's like something creepy going on. That's not happening there at all. She's just like, it's just like minutes with Alice while she makes her coffee.
And the most frustrating part about that, guys, is that she doesn't even get to drink her coffee.
No, she doesn't. She doesn't.
Well, like you said, to reach and try to find, a credit you could give to that scene, I think it's setting you up for later on when you think something mundane is happening, but there will be something in the background that you're not going to expect to be there. So when you do finally get, a quote unquote mundane scene with something happening in the background to catch your eyes, it's more impactful because you weren't expecting it that other time, possibly. Or like you said, they were just trying to pad the runtime. So like, make some coffee. It's fine.
The movie's already like short. It doesn't even need that. I mean, they honestly wanted to make it like a flat 90 minutes. They're like, yeah, we need to add this in here. Like, it's so, every time I remember I watched that scene with a friend and he was like sitting next to me, like waiting for something to happen. And I was like, dude, I just want to disappoint you. Nothing's going to happen. And he was like, why is this even in here then? I was like, I don't know. Like, we still don't really know why we just have this scene of her making coffee for that long. But other than that kind of stuff that they did, they did try their best to kind of, I don't want to say like copy Halloween, but there's a lot of that, like the killer POV and like all that stuff in the movie, and it does a decent job of like, you don't really know what's going on, who's doing it until they reveal it to you. So that part of it's cool. That like it's a big mystery up to the point like Pamela pulls up. And even as like someone who was really young when I saw it, and she was just so nice and so sweet, I was like, oh, it's gotta be her. like, and then of course when you get older, you pay attention to like the Jeep in the background, like, oh, that's the one that's been riding around like all day. Like, yeah, so there's that aspect of it too. But it does its best to try to at least surprise the audience in a pretty decent way.
And I gotta say, it also tries to homage Psycho in a way, because when you first start watching the movie, you think that, I forgot her name, the first counselor that you meet in the cab stand or the little shop that gets picked up. You think that gets picked up. You think she's gonna be the one, that the final girl. You think she's gonna be the one that's the lead, and obviously they kill her off right away. But it's just very interesting. I visited Crystal Lake. They do tours here because Crystal Lake is located in New Jersey, and that's where I'm from. So last year, it's a Boy Scout camp, and they do tours of the camp. So I visited last year, and it's very interesting how far, I mean, the magic of movies, but how distant everything is in the camp. And especially how far the actual camp is from that diner. I think it's like a 35-minute drive from there.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and also just a scene, I'm sure we'll get into like kills, but the archery range is on top of a hill that I couldn't even imagine, like, if that's kayfabe, Pamela Voorhees just, you know what, I'm gonna kill this lady. I'm gonna walk off this like 10
It's
minutes
like-
steep hill just to kill this thing. But I will say, I did want to also add, I what I really love about this movie is, spoiler alert. I don't know if has everyone here seen the new Scream?
Yes.
Oh,
I
for
have.
the
I have.
yes, I have anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you mind if I spoil something real quick?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So I find Pamela Voorhees killing all these people more believable than the character of Amber killing David Arquette. And like, I mean, I like Scream just fine, but I'm like, come on, man, you had to do like that's not happening. Not happening.
Yeah, it took me out of it. I was like, I mean, it was funny because like I know we're not supposed to be talking about that, but when we were watching the movie, of all the people that I was like, oh, one of them is definitely her, because they never really they never tried to make her nice. Like I was like, yeah, something's up with her. It has to be her. But then I was like, well, they have to make it believable, like that it could have been her. And if she's the one that killed Dewey, there's something going. They're fucking around with height and weight, like and a bunch of other stuff that she did. But yeah, I can believe that Pamela, just based on pure, grief-stricken mom rage, could have done all that. And another female one that there's also Rebecca Gayheart in Urban Legend. Like if you can buy into the fact that maybe she gets so crazy by the end, you're like, all right, I mean, maybe I could see it. But yeah, if you can buy into Amber, you can buy into any one of these ladies.
Let me start off here, because this is going to keep coming up. You already guys, you already mentioned that this is my thing, a multiple Jasons theory. It starts here with Friday the 13th. I'm going to tell you, Pamela Voorhees is not the main killer in Friday the 13th. Baghead Jason is.
Oh.
All right.
Here's my rationale for that. You talked about the girl who gets picked up as a hitchhiker. Okay. And this is the first part of my many pieces of evidence that I will bring up. And the hitchhiker, they're in the Jeep and it's driving, and the girl's talking, and that's it. And there's nothing. And then the killer in the Jeep kills her. But when you get to the end of the movie, Pamela Voorhees can't shut up about why she's doing what she's doing. So I am convinced she is not the one driving that Jeep, because Pamela Voorhees cannot shut up about her plan. All she wants to do is talk about what happened to her son, Jason. So I am convinced Baghead Jason, and I will just call him that for now, is actually her accomplice from the first movie. He's going around doing most of the heavy lifting killing. Pamela shows up at the end. You see how completely incompetent she is compared to the rest of the kills in the movie. Alice just continually knocks her down and runs away from her until Alice kills her. At which point, Baghead Jason sees from afar what has happened and is distraught and ends up living in the woods for 4 or 5 years.
I don't know why I like that, like sad him at the end, like,
and he just goes. He's just distraught. He's this guy. He's clearly got mental illness issues. He's clearly got some kind of developmental delay. He's just been roped into this by Pamela Voorhees to help her get revenge on people. Part 1 of the multiple Jasons theory, none of the Jasons, not Baghead, not Hockey Mask, not Zombie, none of them are the boy who drowned in Crystal Lake.
Damn, I like the creativity behind it, though.
Yeah, I love it too. I as soon as he mentioned that Pamela's not the killer, I was like, is it Mr. Voorhees? Did they get back together?
I think she just had this guy who clearly has mental health issues, and she just talked him into it. And then at the end, she dies. He's distraught. He takes her head and goes running off into the woods by himself.
So do you think it's like not her that takes out like Kevin Bacon or Marcy or like it's
possible. It's possible she is involved in some of the kills. I haven't analyzed each kill. It's been a while since I've seen part 1, but the Kevin Bacon kill is definitely Baghead, because you see the hand and it's definitely a man's hand. And some of the more strenuous ones, once you see how completely ineffectual she is against Alice, you realize anything that involved a level of competency probably wasn't Pamela.
Yeah, I can kind of go with that too. It's interesting though, like with a lot of these movies, when it comes to like the final girl, the person at the end somehow loses whatever like stealth they had throughout the entire movie. Whatever like competency they have through the entire movie, where they just can't get that last person. The way they've been able to take out 6 or 7 people ahead of her or him. And yeah, I think that's interesting though, that like maybe she wasn't the muscle, and I mean, I like it. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm cool with
like
it.
that.
I'm cool with any interesting theory. And yours actually works more than most. I mean, if it is Baghead Jason in the Jeep, though, does he look like we know he looks? Because like, was she get in the car with him?
That's the biggest problem with the theory is that, but maybe she's just a very accepting person. Maybe she's not a bigot about that. Maybe she's not the kind of person who's like, oh, you're ugly, I'm not gonna. She's a very progressive person for 1979. She's gonna get in the Jeep with the homely man, and that's fine.
Well, she does have a lot of naive. Like, is pretty naive, so she probably would be that kind of person
possible. She's just a
that
nice
would
lady.
wouldn't judge anyone based on their flaws and like yeah. That's hilarious.
They're half melted face flaws.
And they never get to know if she can really cook because she never makes it there. And I've always kind of wondered what she would be like within the ensemble. Like, kind of curious, like where she would fit because all the other character types are kind of covered. You don't really need her there, I guess.
Yeah.
It's funny I've always thought this about Friday the 13th. I'm like, I've been to camp. I don't know if you guys have. Not everyone's hot. Why is every guy and girl like super hot? Everyone's hot. Except Steve Christie. He's kind of I'm not digging that stash.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, that's true. But yeah, pretty much across the franchise, everyone very attractive.
Yeah,
except for Shelley. Except for Shelley.
Man,
yeah, but Shelley wasn't. But Vera was like, she was coming around.
She was coming around. That biker.
She was coming around by the end.
She was like, yeah, okay.
She is definitely coming around. Speaking of characters, I kind of think that the first movie compared to even talking about like the first four, I feel like I like Alice just because I like the person who plays her, and it seems like she's a sweetheart. In like all the interviews I've seen her in, she seems like a really nice lady. But these characters aren't really really well thought out. They're just kind of like they're playing types. And even though Alice is a popular kind of final girl within the franchise, you don't really get to know much about her. Like I mean, yeah, she seems very innocent, but there's also that weird kind of like, does she have a relationship with Steve Christie? That kind of thing going on. Like when they're talking about like the drawing, and then like he starts like rubbing her face, and it's like, what's going on between them? You don't really get to know much about the core group of people in this movie. I would say that they get a little bit better with that as the sequels go along, where you're kind of like, all right, I like the group as a whole, or I like the final person that's sticking around to the end a bit more than they do in this movie. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not.
Yeah, I think in Friday the 13th, 1980, it's pretty much like, oh, Kevin Bacon and other people, and Alice, who ends up being really awesome throughout the end. But even her, like, you don't really start feeling anything for her until the last act, whenever she really sets herself apart as the main character of the movie. But until that point, it's like, oh, Kevin Bacon's in this movie, and some other people.
True.
Yeah, I would agree as well. I do think that as the series goes on, the fact that it creates these tropes for these characters kind of it makes it a little bit more predictable about who's going to die or not. I think the sweet spot for the first one is that you don't have the classified bitch of the group. You don't have the classified asshole of the group. Everyone is just there as if they're just hanging out at camp, and it kind of makes it when you're sitting there watching for the first time and you're guessing the body count. You're like, okay, I wonder if this person's gonna live. A lot of people are gonna die, but it makes it a little bit harder to decipher who's gonna live or die as opposed as the series goes on. Like, especially when we get to part 7, we get to New Blood, and
she's a bitch. She's an asshole. That was a slut.
There are so many people in part 7 that you're like, I just can't wait for these people to die.
Yep. Yeah, they all are playing like this stereotypical, like, yeah, like they're not gonna last long. That's pretty funny actually, because it's very true as they go along. I also, as far as the kills and stuff too, because this is what kind of set this movie apart from, at the time, I mean, what Tom Savini was doing with like makeup effects and all that. It's funny because by today's standards, this isn't that bad. But for 1980, it was, pretty jarring for a lot of people, which is why a lot of critics don't like this movie, are the ones that follow. Oh, it looks like someone's popping in. And let me see. Let me make sure he pops in real quick. Well, I admitted him, so hopefully he pops in soon. He's kidding. But yeah, it's when you first saw it, were you surprised by how like how intense some of the kill scenes? I mean, I guess like as a kid you would be pretty surprised by it, but like that was the first time I've ever seen something like that at the time because like my Halloween was it's tame by comparison, and then this was like completely off the wall a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I didn't see this one first. Obviously, none of us did, like we talked about earlier. But I mean, I was a little kid, and so this was pretty much my introduction to kills in movies. Was the Friday the 13th? So yeah, it was extreme, but I didn't really have a point of comparison either.
Yeah, for me, I found this tame after watching part 4 because I think the
Yeah,
part
it gets
4
pretty
is-
crazy.
Oh yeah. I'm like, okay, we got a bow to the eye. We're good. Nothing crazy. We got a head chopped off. I'm good. But yeah, I think as opposed to where the franchise goes, it was tame. But I'm guessing in 1980, no one's seen anything like this before. We had Carrie, we had Halloween, we had, horror films, but nothing to the level of the body count as this one.
Yeah, I agree. And do you have a favorite kill in this one?
Man, I guess the answer is supposed to be Kevin Bacon, right?
Yeah, that seems like the low hanging fruit for this movie. That's what I would take. Yeah.
Like, and I one of the part of the tours is they still have the bed and the setup there from 1980. So when you're going through each cabin, they actually let you go under and kind of position yourself the way Kevin Bacon was positioned. That man deserves an Oscar just for sitting there for hours upon hours while they filmed that. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, I always thought how much of the like spear has to go through I always got confused by the logistics of like it coming out through his neck from underneath the bed. And I know I'm probably overthinking it. I am overthinking it. I shouldn't be overthinking it. But
Tom
as you get
Savini
older,
doesn't care about biology.
yeah. Oh, as you get older, you start to like, that couldn't happen really, but whatever. I would like the head being chopped off at the end more, if like after watching all the documentaries about like it being like, was it Tom Savini's hands? It's not her hands at the end. Like that kind of takes it out when it's like, oh, it's a man that's like stepping in for Betsy Palmer. But yeah, it's the Kevin Bacon one is probably my favorite of the bunch, only because it also pretty surprising too, because like when you're not really when you're younger, you're not aware of horror movie tropes. It kind of is jarring and kind of comes out of nowhere a little bit, and I think it is probably the most graphic one of the bunch. I mean, I guess Annie's throat getting slit is pretty significant too. But yeah, I also, what I liked about this movie too, and I want to give it credit for, is that even though it is a low budget horror film, I thought the motivations they gave, Pamela Voorhees, played by the late Betsy Palmer, I bought into it enough to kind of think that this would drive someone completely off the rails crazy, and that this is what she might do because she was pushed like that far by grief. Like for a movie like this to kind of like, it wasn't going to explore that like in depth, but I thought I did enough to kind of make that motivation like really work in the end for her. And I think even though I know critics kind of bashed her at the time, I think she kind of plays that, at least for me, she played it pretty well, in my opinion.
I mean, for the movie that it is, she's clearly there having fun with it, and that's all you could really ask for from her. Like, just go out there, talk to yourself, make a little kid Jason voice to yourself, like, kill her, mommy. Yeah, that's great. She's clearly having a good time with it. The rationale works for, like I said, what this movie is. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it does. You have to say, like when you add on the caveat, like, yeah, for what the movie is, this
for what the movie is, yeah, I mean,
it completely works.
Vanilla Sky, like we don't.
No, it is true. It's definitely true. I want to kind of go to the end of the film where like Alice is in the boat, and I'm going back to when I saw this as a child. That was the only scene, I remember that actually, and I know that's what that scene is for. It's supposed to make you like jump out of your seat, but I remember that one was the one that terrified me most as a child. That like really kind of was like wasn't expecting it. They're playing that nice little pleasant music in the background.
she's officially waving her hand.
Yeah,
she's like
despite all the things she's been through that night, she's pretty chill. Like just like yeah, as soon as I get out of here, like I'm just gonna like get a little therapy and we'll be good. And then she seems a little nonchalant in the boat.
It's a fun fact about that scene. That scene was actually shot in a reshoot in the winter. They had to go back. So next time you watch it, the benefit of 4K and Blu-ray, if you look behind Alice, you actually see that all the leaves are changing colors or dead.
Nice.
Well, nice. I think we got.
You
Kurt
could just
in
chalk
here
that
now.
up to the trees are scared of Pamela.
The glamorous face you just gave.
What's up, fellas? How we doing? Thank you for my late admittance. I apologize for being so tardy.
Oh no, it's okay.
The world of personal training kept me busy today. So, how are we, gentlemen?
We are doing well. We're having a lot of fun, just kind of talking about Friday the 13th.
Kurt, I was giving the gentleman letting them know that Friday the 13th actually taught you how to make coffee.
It's true. It's true. It actually, it's true. It's true, fellas. I make a mean cup of Java, and those were my roots. So, guys, I interrupted. I do apologize. Dave, it's funny that you're mentioning that one scene that they reshot X amount of months after. That's happened twice, has it not? In two separate films, they've had to go back to reshoots in different. I don't know if I was reading incorrectly on a wiki page. It might have been referring to another film. Was that part 2 that you were talking about before?
Part 1.
It was part 1. Okay, if I remember correctly, I was reading something that it was part 1 and then part, I think, 2 or 3. They had to go back to do reshoots right before the second or the third one was released. So, good point, my friend. Good point. Anyways, I am interrupting, guys. Let's
no, you're good. Yeah, we're glad that you're here. We were just getting towards the end of the first one, and
cool.
Gonna jump into the sequels next. I do want to ask you because you just got on, and I got to ask everyone else how they got into the franchise, and if you want to just quickly kind of like say like when you discovered it and like what you kind of thought of it when you first got involved with these films.
Yeah, sure. Actually, this is a topic of conversation that Dave and I had on Chop Talk a couple weeks ago. Grew up a block away from a video store, man, and that those VHS covers were my go-to. Those were the things that drew me in day in, day out whenever I would take my Friday trips over to the video store. Ironically enough, and we're going to talk about the sequels, and we're going to get into it. Jason Takes Manhattan was my first one that I actually ever watched.
That's interesting.
So, yeah, it was the first one I ever watched, and it was with a friend of mine. God, I think we must have been 10 or 11 years old. And I don't know why that was the first one that we chose. My presumption is, again, the video or the VHS cover was, I remember correctly, Jason standing with time, or I guess standing and looking. It was either Times Square or just New York City in general, as if he was looking at it from a further away view. And it caught our attention, man. And then that was where the love began. So I have a very soft spot for how bad but how unbelievably fun and great part 8 is there. So anyways, yeah, continue on. So.
I kind of wonder if like part 8 was my first one, would I want to go back and watch the rest? Like I guess
I've never been so disappointed by a horror movie than Friday the 13th Part 8 because of living in the area and always being in New York. I'm like, let's go chase this thing. And then we're in a boat for about an hour. And
I'm so excited for these 10 minutes of New York that I'm going to see.
And it makes me long. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm with Kurt. I love Part 8. I enjoy it so much just because the 10 minutes that they are in New York are just are so amazing to me. Just seeing like Jason Voorhees in Times Square to the backdrop of a Batman 89 on the marquee. I'm like,
on the marquee,
come on.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that is funny. Like you name a movie, Jason Takes Manhattan, and then like the vast majority of it is on the boat. And I know that like with that movie, they didn't even have like a big enough budget to like fully shoot in New York. Like they did the Times Square stuff, and just a bunch of false advertising with that one too, because that would have been so cool if he was just like completely unleashed on New York City
Good.
for an hour and a half. That
And
would have been
speaking of
like
false-
a perfect.
Speaking of false advertisement, G, that part 8 takes a lot to, there's a lot in the alleyways. New York doesn't have that many alleys. I've been to Manhattan. I go there for press screenings all the time. Not that many alleys.
Yeah, but it turns out that Vancouver does.
Yes.
All right, now as we get to the front end of the sequels, Friday the 13th Part 2, 3, and 4. Part 2 comes out just a year later because they had to strike while the iron's hot. And also after, Friday the 13th comes out, and like David said earlier, more so than Halloween, I think Friday the 13th really spawned this kind of the slasher genre that became popular in the 80s, like where you get stuff like Final Exam and My Bloody Valentine and Terror Train, stuff like that. They owe more of a debt to Friday the 13th than they do to Halloween. Like even something like Halloween 2 felt they had to go bigger and bloodier because of like Friday the 13th. So yeah, by the time Friday the 13th,
that's why it's not an insult to say that Friday the 13th was just ripping off Halloween, because Halloween then just ripped off Friday the 13th with Part 2. They were like, oh wait, people want to see blood. We can do that. There's so much blood now.
Yep, pretty much. It comes out a year later. For some reason, not as financially successful as the first movie. First one made a little over $39 million. This one made $21.7 million, but it only cost $1.25 million to make. So Paramount Pictures was not upset with the return on that one. This is our first real introduction to Jason. I'm still confused as to how much time has passed between the first movie and this one.
So
and then
I'm gonna go ahead. I'm sorry. No,
I was gonna say the first movie takes place 1979. The second movie, third movie, fourth movie, since they're all essentially a long weekend, take place in 1984.
There we go.
I'm gonna say Friday the 13th Part 2 takes place about 2 hours after the first one, because there's no way Alice would not grow her hair out, because that whole haircut needed to go immediately. And I think that's probably why Jason killed her, not because Alice killed her mother. It's because that haircut, it just had to go.
It's so awful. It's so bad. They have her come back and just like, she's like, I survived the first one. Maybe I'm the star of this one. And they're like, no, we just need you for like 15 minutes with a really bad hairdo. With a really bad hairdo.
If what I've heard is correct, that was her. They wanted her to be the star of the second movie, but she didn't want to be in it for like that long. Like I think she was having stalker issues or something.
She was, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
I do have a hot take about Part 2, and I hope you guys don't kick me off this podcast right now.
No.
I think Part 2 and Sandbag Jason is the scariest Jason.
That's a hot take I can agree with, actually. I agree with that.
I like Baghead Jason. He's kind of incompetent though when he's just falling off chairs.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
and getting
like
kicked
kind
in
of
the
like
nuts.
a bumbling idiot of a killer, but like still you're like, oh my god, look what he just did. And it's like, nah, I don't think he completely thought that through. That was just like so.
But the mask, the mask. I mean, as iconic as the hockey mask becomes, man, the Baghead mask is just awesome.
Yeah. It's the creepiest look. It's got that like Town the Dreaded Sundown kind of vibe going for it. And I think this is like the only time Jason's actually like remotely scary, like even a little bit.
It's funny that you said it best. The hockey mask is what we know him for. Just a quick anecdote. We have this thing up in Toronto called Halloween Haunt at a theme park, and basically every part of the theme park is a different walk, like a haunted maze, basically, right? So there's one part where this guy comes out and he's wearing like the Jason like stand-back mask, right? This is years and years ago, maybe 10 years ago. I'm going through it, and we finished the maze, and people are like, who the fuck is that guy? I was like, no, it's Jason. They're like, no, it's all you need. It's a hockey mask. Like, no, guys, no, that's like OG Jason. And I'm having a full-blown argument with my friends as this thing wraps up. And you said it best. I think it's the most terrifying we see him throughout the entire series, because it's like plausible. Like it's just a guy running around with something that seems like hyper realistic. Again, very like Michael Myers-esque, right? So continue on. Sorry.
Yeah, it still has the realism of the first movie a bit, where it's still grounded a bit in reality, and that's what makes that movie. And like, it's interesting too, because I think the second one almost follows, like, it feels like it almost follows the first one beat for beat as far as pacing goes, but for some reason the second one flows a bit better to me. There's something about it that, like, and that could be just because, like, he's actually scary in this, he's actually imposing in this, you know, and, you know, even though we know what the threat is, even though the threat was kind of like hidden in the first one, we didn't know who it was. I think knowing what the threat was in this kind of made the stuff a bit more frightening in the second one. Even though if you do watch them back to back, it does feel like they were just like beat for beat. This is how both films are like very, very similar to each other.
I think in the second movie, you're right. Like, beat for beat, it follows definitely the pattern. It is not straying from what made the first movie so much money. But like we talked about with the characters in the first movie, where it's like Kevin Bacon and Alice and some jabronis, I think you care much more about the characters.
And some jabronis. Yeah, you know, you get introduced to Ginny, which I think for a lot of people, Amy Steele is like their fan favorite, like, final girl. They like her the most of the Friday the 13th girls. And, you know, I guess out of most of them, she does have the most, the most depth out of all of them. And I think because she makes attempts to kind of like understand what could be going on. If this is like, if they believe in that legend, like, what if Jason really is real and all that stuff, like, she is kind of taking steps to like understand it. And, you know, the stuff that she does at the end too, it's like, she's not just like running away being scared. She's like thinking and, like, you know, using her mind to kind of like get over on him a bit. I think that's why she's become a fan favorite over time. I don't know if she's my favorite. I'm partial to the girl in part 3, but that's we'll get there in a second. But the annoying one with the flashback scene.
Remember that time Jason tried to rape me?
Yeah. But yeah, I think that there is a vast improvement in the characters in the second film compared to the first one, where it's like I can actually like remember. Even Paul, you know, I can hang with him too, even though he doesn't do much to help in the end. They're getting better at introducing characters that are a bit more memorable.
And compare this to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where Texas Chainsaw Massacre had the character in the wheelchair and he was just the worst. You just hated him because he was so obnoxious. And then what's his name? Mike in this movie is the guy in the wheelchair, and he is a three-dimensional person. Like, he is not treated as like the guy in the wheelchair. Like, he has a personality and he has a story and people like him for who he is. It's not just like, and then the movie kind of gives him like a, haha, look at this wheelchair guy dying. But until you get to that point, he's a really well-regarded character.
The cruelest fatality, I think, across that whole franchise. Just completely helpless.
I think it's my favorite kill in the entire franchise.
I think so. Myself as well, because it's memorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's my second. It's very close though. It's between him or Andy doing the handstand, and then he gets like,
ooh, yeah, down the middle. Good, yeah.
But yeah, I was like, that's so cruel to like kill that dude that way. And then he was gonna like possibly get some, or he was. The girl was all about it.
Wasn't he like he was wheeling, no pun intended.
Yeah, he was. And he made it a point to let her know that, like, oh, I can manage, like, this stuff works.
Everything works.
Yeah, everything works. But yeah, I just think overall too, the second one is just more entertaining than the first film. I think it ranks higher than the first film as well. I am curious as to why you think it might have not have been as financially successful as the first movie was.
Ooh, Dave, you want to start off?
I'm looking at
what came out that year?
What came out around that same time, because it's very surprising that with the popularity of part one, that this did not pick up steam. I think what makes it even more surprising as you go on, G, like, and you run through the box office, how the other ones continue to make money. It's right. It's very, very surprising, because this came out in in May of '81.
One.
I'm trying to.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I have a list right here. I don't know how close these were released together, but The Evil Dead, The Howling, My Bloody Valentine, Happy Birthday to Me, Graduation Day, Halloween 2, The Burning, Omen 3, The Final Conflict. So there was a lot in
Yeah,
81.
there's a lot.
Particularly Halloween 2, I guess. I mean, there was like that was like a it might have just been like I don't know how close they were released to each other, but it just might have just been like an oversaturation of the market a little bit.
Yeah, Halloween 2 was released in October, and that only made 25 million too.
Yeah.
So
As a collectively disappointed everyone.
We might have been at that point where like we were in the valley between like, oh man, Friday the 13th was awesome, but we weren't into the point where like, oh man, this is going to be a whole decade's worth of crap that we're just going to keep watching. It just kind of hit this point where like, I don't think society knew that this was going to be a big thing. It was just like, oh, we saw the first movie. How good could the second one be? So it probably got a little bit bigger on VHS and everything. And that's whenever everybody started going out and seeing 3, 4, 5, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So
even looking at the box office breakdown, guys, like it hits number 1 the weekend that it comes out, and there's nothing of significance the weekend before or the weekend after. Like I don't know. I think you said it best, and we see it a lot of it now is fatigue. Like if striking while the iron is hot doesn't necessarily mean success, right? And that's been proven across all genres, whether it be and like, hey, I'm actually gonna put this out there, and Dave, ironically enough, just posted about this. I'm genuinely concerned that the new Scream movie that's coming out in a year is not going to be the success that the one was this year, because although they're striking while the iron is hot, give it a little bit of time, let anticipation build a little bit, rather than essentially.
I think it's too soon as well. Yeah, I think it's too soon as well with that. Like even though it's like it will be like over a year, I guess, so it comes out March 2023. I think I think there's been so much talk about it since it opened, and then since it's come out on like now Blu-ray and all that stuff, and like and now it's on streaming. Like everyone's continuing to talk about it, and like it hasn't had time to like really like breathe.
Yes,
I
agree.
I think the last I would actually say the last horror film to drop its sequel the year after to be successful is Scream 1 and Scream 2.
Scream 2.
Yeah. So,
and I think the
off
news.
The top of my mind.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No. I echo that, man. No, I echo that completely.
And I think the news, I think what's working with Scream's favor is they still have a lot of people to bring back. Like the news that Kurt's talking about is that Hayden Panettiere is coming back for Scream 6.
Yeah.
So
wait, really? Did they confirm that?
It's
today.
Yeah.
That'll make everyone on Twitter. That'll make everyone on Twitter happy. So
but
happy.
I do have a theory.
She's a hot mess now, though.
Do you guys think Friday the 13th Part 2 was not successful because fans were clamoring for a Crazy Ralph biopic? Like, we want to know more about Crazy Ralph.
Yeah, we didn't really get to talk about him in the first one. Like, I would have liked more of him around. He amuses me.
Just
I don't know.
hiding in pantries.
May I actually just bring something up? This is very
for
funny, and we're talking about the sequel, Strike While the Iron's Hot. We have completely neglected one pivotal franchise through the 2000s. Saw.
Yeah.
2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. They have those 7 movies come out year after year after year on the exact same weekend, which is that last weekend in October right before Halloween. And like you said, basically trying to strike while the iron's hot. And every single one of them had diminishing box office returns. But ironically enough, not the first. So like Saw 1's like a mediocre hit, but 2 and 3 kill it. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it just depends. I really guess it just depends. Sorry, guys, to back up your point there. Like some really succeed box office wise when they're released ever so closely, and some don't. Some putter out, like you said, Halloween 1, Halloween 2, and in this case, Part 1 and Part 2, Friday the 13th, right? So,
yeah, because it's such a significant drop off too. Like 39 million compared to 21.
Almost 50%, right? That's
that's crazy that it dipped that low. But yeah, it might have just been like an oversaturation of the market, and
makes sense.
You guys probably might know this more than me. What is the deal with the 2 people that play Jason in this movie? So it's Warrington Gillette plays him when he crashes through the window at the end, right? Is that
Steve
it?
Dash. Yeah,
that's and then Steve Dash plays him throughout the whole thing. But was it that Warrington Gillette was claiming that he played him the entire time?
So I met Steve Dash before he passed away, and during the Q&A at that convention, he pretty much, someone asked him, they're like, what happened? And obviously it's he say, the fact is, the truth is somewhere in the middle. He pretty much said that they originally hired Warrington, and he was just not cutting it. Even though he had the sack over his head, he just wasn't cutting it. So they brought Steve Dash in to do all the stunt work. But for that final scene where, he jumps through the mirror, they used Warrington for that. That is the only scene he's credited for in the entire movie. And making a living off of it because he is doing the con run. So get props for that. Make your money, buddy. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And then the Steve Dash had a beef that a lot of people were crediting Warrington over him in the franchise. And it wasn't until like the early 2010s that people were like, no, it was Steve Dash who played Jason in part 2.
And Warrington's he's not even a stuntman, right? Or was he? Was he just like a dude?
I think
which is why he couldn't really. That's why he couldn't really do.
Just an actor. Yeah.
That's why he couldn't really do the work the way he was supposed to. Well, I mean, to his credit, at least he gets like a really great moment as him. I mean, that final scene, even more so than I'm 37 and I've watched that movie as recently as a few months ago, and I still, if I'm caught off guard, I still jump when he crashes through the window, only because sometimes I'm not playing competition or whatever. I'm like, does it happen right now? Oh, it happens right now. So it always kind of gets me, and maybe because I'm distracted by the cute fucking dog. That's
yeah, Muffin's still alive. Hooray!
Muffin, does Muffin actually? Does she? I mean, I don't even know if the ending is like, is it real? Did that happen, or is it like a dream?
I think it's a dream.
It's ambiguous enough. The beginning of part 3 simultaneously says there are only 8 dead people, which seems to imply that Paul didn't die. But part 3 also says that Ginny was the only survivor. So either their math is wrong or they're forgetting that Paul existed.
Script issues.
If you subscribe to the multiple Jasons theory, then the end of part 2 has to have actually happened, because that's a big part of it, because he doesn't look anything like Hockey Mask Jason.
Yeah, he looks different.
He goes from having flowing red hair to being completely bald overnight.
They don't try to make the look consistent, even though it's supposed to be like one long weekend. Just one long weekend.
Which is my favorite aspect of the multiple Jasons theory, because if you really think about it, there are 2 crazy killers running around Camp Crystal Lake for years. It's rapey Hockey Mask Jason, who tries to grab Chris and run away with her in the night, and Pamela Voorhees' accomplice, Baghead Jason. They're both just simultaneously living there.
I love this theory so much. especially with Chris, that he just got away from mom and was like, I'm just gonna go do my own thing real quick. It's hilarious. But yeah, I mean, overall for you guys, do you think the second one is an improvement over the first movie?
I think so.
Big time.
It's a 2-horse race for me for the best Friday the 13th movie, and one of those horses is part 2.
I want to hear what the other one is now.
I hope we're all.
Hold until later.
I hope we're all on the same boat here.
Okay.
I'm curious. Because I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to kind of go into about part 2? Anything that
if you want to survive, just go hang out at a bar.
Yep.
Yeah, they set Ted up as the most annoying character in
to kill him.
Just write him off to safety.
Yeah, and
realistically, we would be the first people murdered.
Yes,
so you would not go to the bar.
First ones here.
No, you didn't go to the bar.
Scott,
I always notice that there's a black guy in that group, and he goes to the bar,
yes.
and he does not die.
And there's an Asian girl too. So this movie saved all the minorities.
I was like, that is where you go and you stay, Leroy. You do not go back. You hang out.
And then John Carpenter righted that wrong in Christine, because he was one of the first ones to go when he gets killed off in Christine.
Yeah,
that's true. That is funny. Like, because like when you first start that movie, like you're like, there's a lot of people in this cast. Are they? How are they going to get rid of like most of them? And they like just like half of them go to the bar and just stay there. And like, all right, that's how
movie just writes them out.
Yeah, just writes them out.
The interesting part with 2 is I don't believe the kills start till about 50 minutes in.
It's a slow burn a little bit compared to like the Alice
kill. You get the Alice kill at the beginning to tide you over.
Yeah. And they're like, you're gonna hold on for an hour.
Jason throws a cat at her through a window.
Which would kind of be unheard of now, like to wait that long to kind of establish like a kill, like in a horror movie like that. There is a long wait in between like the stuff that kind of goes down in the movie.
Well, I think also along with building suspense for the rest of the movie, I think the filmmakers realized that not only do we show you Alice making coffee once, we show her make coffee twice. And I know we needed
don't fucking forget it.
I know we needed to come back to Earth. We're like, we're not going to see her make coffee anymore, so people needed to get over that, and that's why it took so long.
No, we had to listen to a long, drawn out, annoying conversation with her mother.
Yeah. And then she takes the world's shortest shower.
Yeah, she does. It's like a millisecond.
Like a not even like 10-second, like just kind of like
she
water dash.
off.
And it's like, oh, okay, I'm done now. It's like, wait, what? Fuck? Hold on. You don't even wash the dirt off of you, girl. What the hell's going on?
It's so true. Then we also get Pamela Voorhees back, at least for a little bit, through the whole Jason just not being that smart. It's Jenny puts on the sweater and he's like, Mom? Is that you? He forgets that he has her head on a throne, like right behind her, I guess. Yeah. But it is like we were just talking when we were talking about Jenny. It's cool that she uses that as a way to kind of like try to get one over on him. I think that's probably why she's considered one of the best of the final girls. I guess and final guys too, because we get Tommy eventually. So I won't just say girls. But yeah, like. I think she has talked about in the past how like she didn't want to do another one because she oddly enough didn't want to do like just horror movies. But then she kind of said that she wished she would have done it because they did offer it to her, and she turned it down. And,
well, hindsight's 2020. I mean, right? Like if you know that like you're you're being offered a typecast and you're a young actress, especially in like that day and age, again, like early 80s. Well, when did the third one come out? Pardon me, 83?
82.
82.
It was a year after?
So yeah, so 80, 81, then 82. Yeah, so it would have been like a year after. Yeah.
And again, being like, oh, I don't know, maybe typecast as said character, even just in horror movies. So yeah, of course, afterwards when like nothing comes your way, you're like, fuck, I wish I'd have taken it. So,
and it's funny, she goes off to be the star of April Fool's Day.
Fool's Day.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. Yes, absolutely. Again, kind of a little bit of irony there, right? But yeah, I mean, hey, coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. She has mentioned that. She's like, if I would have like had the thoughts I have now, like as a young actress, she's like, oh, I just want to do so many other things, and she thought and I think a lot of people when they were doing those movies back then thought they were going to get stuck doing them. I mean, it happened to Jamie Lee Curtis when she started out. Like she did Halloween, and Halloween was a really good movie, and she thought that she was going to get offered all this stuff, and that didn't really happen. It wasn't until like John Carpenter was like, "Do you want to be in The Fog?" And then she's like, "Okay," and then she just did a bunch of horror movies in a row, and then she decided she couldn't do them anymore if she wanted to kind of break out and like do something different.
Terror Train falls into that too, right?
I love Terror Train.
We need to do
Terror Train.
Dave,
I love Terror Train.
Talk after this. We gotta do a Terror Train episode.
Absolutely.
I love Terror Train. Is so good.
It's so good. Who else? Dave. When speaking of another big '80s franchise, there. Who else does that remind you of somebody kind of getting typecast a little bit from a giant horror franchise that we both love and adore? So she takes a little hiatus and then comes back.
I'm trying to think.
You lost me. Who is it?
Her name rhymes with Schmancy.
I was gonna say, Nancy, because she's not in part 2.
She comes back from part 3. Yes.
That paycheck was big enough to get her to come back.
And then she leaves for another couple of movies, and it comes back again.
And then comes back
New Nightmare.
Yeah.
And then she does the smart. She does the smart one. She does like the elevated one. No, that is. Yeah, I wonder. I'm kind of curious if, like, unless she just didn't want to do the second one because it was like the script just wasn't nowhere near as good as the first. But at least the third one had a story by Wes Craven, and that was enticing and brought her back. But yeah, that's interesting too. Like she'd be another one that was kind of got typecast a bit, and I feel like I wouldn't care.
No,
I just wouldn't care. I just wouldn't care. Like, it's a paycheck.
I think nowadays horror is in such a safe place where actresses and actors could just say, "I'll come back." Sure, why not?
Yep,
back in the '80s, it was such a different vibe for horror.
You know, I feel like Nev Campbell finds herself in that boat sometimes where
I think she does.
She's like, I don't mind if it's good, and that's always been like her stipulation. Like with the fifth one they did, she was like, hey, if it's good, I'll come back. And now with this next one, they're all like, where is she? Are you coming back? And she's like, I can't talk about it.
I read that. Yeah, I wrote that. You wrote that today, did you not? Or was it yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday. Yesterday, where she said she couldn't talk about it because she didn't know. Either she read the script and is not down with it, or maybe she's in the middle of a deal. It's weird because I have this thing where I feel like it's not screened without her, but I also understand it doesn't make sense to keep bringing her back and having her survive every single time. And I mean, it was cool to see her in the last one. You know, whether or not she was utilized as well as she could have been is another story. But it's hard to shoot her and those people into stories like that with new characters.
Yeah,
unless you're talking about. Yeah,
it's hard to imply that any franchise needs to do what Halloween Resurrection did. But you have to at least kill her off if you're going to bring her back. If you're not going to bring her back, you have to at least kill her off. Like, be like, just come in for 5 minutes. We'll have the person kill you, and then we'll move on with the plot. Like, you can't just not have her in the movie.
Yeah, man. Halloween Resurrection is probably my most disliked movie of all time.
Really?
Kurt,
it's definitely the worst of the Halloween movies.
Kurt, I loathe. I didn't know anything about critiquing film when I was 13 years old in that film. And I saw that movie and I was like, this shit is fucking garbage. There's have some respect for Michael Myers. You're a Bill guy, Kurt. I know you know when you're fighting Michael Myers, you're not gonna pull out some Bruce Lee karate.
You don't talk about Busta Rhymes like that, dude. You keep his name out of your mouth.
But no, like the interesting concept with like what you guys were talking about the Final Girls here is that, I mean, hopefully this lawsuit, we hear different things. Is it over? Is it not over? All the Final Girls are still alive.
Yeah,
you're getting into 13th entry. I feel like there's only one place to go.
Just have them all come back.
Yeah.
Wow! I didn't know they were all. I've never really looked them up. I didn't know they were all still out there. That's awesome.
Yeah. When we get to the final,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say when we get to the final guy, we're going to get into in part 4. It's all dependent on which one you want to choose. Personally, I want to go with part 6.
Yo,
that guy. That's my favorite. I mean, well,
Tom Matthews.
Favorite grown-up Tommy.
Yes,
I guess. Yeah. Of the bunch. All right, so now we get into Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D. Yes. Comes out just a year later, August 13th, 1982. The box office improves probably because of the 3D. It grossed $36.7 million on a $2.2 million budget. It was the second highest grossing horror film of 1982 behind Poltergeist. And
that's a good film to take the gold medal for that year.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine with that. Yeah. I'm just gonna say this. I said that Chris was my favorite Final Girl. I'm basing this purely on looks. It's not just not really because
you chauvinist pig.
Not because she is all
I
that
thought
compelling.
This podcast was classy. What am I coming on?
But I think she might be the only like brunette one of the bunch. Like she's not like the typical like blonde that they have throughout most of the movies. She's 80s hot. I'm gonna give her that. And not really the most compelling character, and we can get to that. She tries real hard to I just imagine when she did that monologue as an actress that she took that shit home and was like, I am gonna kill it tomorrow. I am gonna sell this because she came my heart out.
Own this and make it mine, and they're gonna remember me in film history. And I go, okay.
We do.
We do for all the wrong reasons. This one is actually it's a toss-up sometimes of the first 4. I've watched this one the most of the first 4 and kind of come back to it the most, and it is a lot of fun. This is it's also when we get introduced to Jason in his iconic hockey mask. That he gets courtesy of Shelley inadvertently. And no, it is between 3 and 4. I always go back and forth between which one I have the most fun with. But 3 is a really just at this point now it's not grounded much in reality anymore. Since we've seen all the stuff that he's endured in part 2, and we're like, all right, this guy's he's not human. You're trying to say he is, but like whatever, I'll just go with it. But this also, I think it also improves on the whole like casting too. I think the ensemble is a lot of fun as well in this. Fun fact, I've actually met at the restaurant I managed at, Tracy Savage has come in there. She played Debbie in this.
She's a reporter now, right, G?
She was a reporter at I think she still is. She used to be a local reporter in Los Angeles. She actually covered a lot of the O.J. Simpson stuff here. She came to the restaurant and I was like, I'm gonna tell her what I recognize.
I know something about people being stabbed to death.
Yeah. I was like, I'm gonna tell her what I recognize her from and hope she doesn't get annoyed. And she was not annoyed. She was very, very nice and very down to earth. And like she says, she has no problem being remembered for that movie because it was a fun time for her as an actress, even though she kind of got out of it after that. Because she wanted to get into other things, but she said the whole experience of making the movie was just a lot of fun. But yeah, like what are some of you guys' thoughts on the third movie? Like, what do you guys enjoy about it?
So
the
I like
3D. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say the 3D stuff it makes the movie so annoying to watch now. Like, I just watched part 3 last week for a show that's coming out this weekend. They just covered part 3 for Friday the 13th. And I watched it, and it's a good movie. I want to like it as much as I want to like 2, but like every 5 minutes, there's like, it's coming right at you. Like, all right, movie, I get it. Like,
with the
I don't need to see the eyeball and the popcorn and the yo-yo and the spear, and it's like, okay, I get it. I know what you were doing. You didn't need to do it this many times. And when you're not watching it in 3D, it's just distracting.
I agree 1000%. Shout Factory released a new box set for Friday the 13th last year, and before then there was a 2013-14 release that box set came with the 3D glasses. So I subjected myself to sit there and watch that movie in 3D with those red and blue 3D glasses. It was, I don't know how I didn't go blind after watching it.
How bad was your headache on a scale of 1 to 10 after the movie ended?
All jokes aside, it was probably like a 7 or 8. I had an insane migraine after that. But I do agree with you guys. I think this movie goes and puts the franchise in a better position, except why they got to kill off the first Latina in a like, what are we doing? Like,
in an aggressive way too.
Right?
Yeah, a really aggressive way.
Yeah.
They make sure. It's a cool death scene.
It is a cool death.
Well, yeah,
She is the first person killed by Jason wearing a hockey mask.
Yeah, so. I guess there's that. That's
the only sentiment I have towards Friday the 13th part 3 is I think it's very under appreciated for 2 reasons. It has created a folklore about this character. Again, the hockey mask is how we all know Jason. If I show my mother a picture of Jason Voorhees with the hockey mask, she knows who that is, right? Anybody who's a film fan knows what that represents, right? And the character that it represents. And I don't think enough people talk about part 3 because most people just who are casual think that he's always had the hockey mask through all the whole series, right?
Right.
Part 3 is pivotal because it is that changing of the guard from the character, visually, but also, like you said, from the character as basically being like a human. Well, I mean, part 2 does a pretty good job of this, but the character being human to, like, again, being this supernatural entity. And I would say that Halloween part 4, if I remember correctly, kind of does the same thing, right? Where it stops becoming a movie about a man who's a serial killer and becomes this like supernatural,
unstoppable
type of killer.
Yeah,
unstoppable force meeting, movable teenage objects. So yeah, I really enjoyed part 3. It's so fucking the 3D is just horrendous. And like you said it best. The fact that every 5 to 10 minutes something's coming at the camera like full steam ahead, it's distracting while you're watching it. It takes away from like the fun of it, but again, it's a product of its time. We experienced this right after, all of us as film fans, we experienced this right after Avatar came out in 2009. 2010, 2011 or the year of the theater headache. We're like, going to see Clash of the Titans, and I was like, why is this necessary? Like the 3D is just it feels so forced. Like there's nothing besides box office receipts that it's trying to accomplish, right? So that's my part three rant. So
I honestly think of the third act. I think this one has one of the better ones. Like the whole like the chase stuff with like between him and Chris at the end is pretty like relentless and like pretty entertaining. And I also like that in the second, third, and fourth one we get a Jason that actually like runs. And and like so that makes him a lot scarier than what comes kind of after, like, you know, I guess we'll say 5. What comes after that? But yeah, I love like the last like 10 minutes or so. Like the stuff in the barn's really good. I always thought it was funny that when he's looking for her in the barn and she's hanging and she drops down, I'm pretty sure it's her butt that hits his face and knocks him over. And then like you know, when she does the thing where she like has to hang him and you know, it seems like he breaks his neck and she opens the barn door and she like thinks it's over and he just like grabs the thing and she's like why are you not dead yet?
Yeah her acting like, there's actually really good, because that's exactly what my reaction would be. I'd be like, no, this isn't supposed to be. I like, just hung you.
And then the best part is when she puts the axe in his head and then he puts his arms out and she's like, why are you still alive? Like, how are you still alive? But yeah, I think it's just because of that, I think it's probably one of the most fun entries of the franchise. Even though I agree the 3D is ridiculous. Like the throwing of the wallet at the convenience store, the popcorn,
which apparently the throwing of the wallet took like 20 to 30 some takes.
Yeah,
because Shelley just couldn't do it.
And this one also tries to make really weird things about like trying to make you care about the characters. Like Tracy Savage's character is like pregnant. They just mentioned that randomly. Like she's like, oh, like we're eating for 2 now. And then of course the stuff with Chris, like the reason that they're there with her is because she had this like traumatic experience, which would have worked a lot better if Dana Kimmel could have sold it as an actress. I would have been invested in like her trauma if it wasn't really bad like soap opera acting, because that was the world that she came from back in the day. And it was so bad.
I can imagine she finishes shooting that scene and she's like, I nailed it.
She's like, nailed it. She's like, yes.
I killed that.
She's like, can you? I can do another. He's like, no, it's not gonna get better.
This is the best we're gonna get.
This is the best we're gonna get from you. And then of course she also has the random, I guess, freak out dream. I guess Pamela comes out of the water and grabs her at the end for no other reason other than to just throw it in there.
That's the oddest one. The part 1 with Jason the boy coming out of the lake, you could argue like, did that happen or not? Part 2 with Jason coming through the window, you could argue, did that happen or not? This is the only one where it's like, yeah, okay, that definitively didn't happen. So why is it here?
Yeah. So this is the only one, right, where the characters don't really know anything about Jason. Like I think like that whole,
it would make sense. Yeah,
I think
they
that
don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I think that whole group is unaware of like Jason Voorhees. He's just like the only experience that she had was like with this guy who attacked her, and then that was it. Like there's no like, so that's an interesting aspect of that sequel as well. Like they don't really refer to him as Jason in it, because I don't think any of them know who he is.
Yeah,
in that movie. And also, the cast is a really mismatched group of friends. Like it's like, you have the one pothead and his girlfriend, and then
they're so weird in this movie. Like, what? Where did they come from? They're like, hey, these are our friends that are 30 years older than us and potheads that we just brought along with us.
And I think part 3 also continues the streak that I think we see up till part 6, where the movie does not actually take place at Crystal Lake.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, part 3 takes place at Higgins Haven. Is that what it's called? Yeah.
And then part 2 is Packanack Lounge or something like that.
Yep. So of course, after that one, even though part 3 makes a lot of money, Paramount is still embarrassed by the fact that it's they're not good, but they're making money. So they're like, okay, we have to definitively like end this. So they come up with Friday the 13th, the final chapter. There's a gap between the third one and this one. It came out 2 years later in 1984. made $33 million on a $2.6 million budget. Was supposed to be the final one, but as we know, that did not happen.
Funny what like 30 some million dollar grosses will do for you.
Yeah. What I will say about this one, just off the bat, I think this one is probably my favorite ensemble of all of
Same
them.
here.
Like that this is the most fun cast that they have across the entire franchise. I mean, Crispin Glover alone just kind of makes
Crispin
it.
Glover and his dance and his endlessly talking about being a dead fuck. It's like, all right, man.
Yep.
That's all your character has, I guess.
Yep. But Dave, you said this was like the first one that you saw.
This was something. I think the kill that got me the most was the Crispin Glover kill. Because that's I'm sitting
Where's
there
the
watching,
damn corkscrew?
and then boom, and I'm like, oh my god. And I gotta say, I think this one does have, I mean, especially for my age when I first saw this, the most nudity of the first three. Like,
I think so,
right?
Of the first four, yeah.
But
if I recall correctly, it's immediately surpassed by the next one.
Oh yes. But I do agree with G. I think this is the best ensemble so far that we've gotten. I mean, actually, I think it is the best overall.
Yeah, I mean, I always go back and forth between the third and the fourth. I mean, it flip flops, so it's hard for me to pick which one I enjoy the most. But I would say that this one is probably the most relentless one up to this point.
Agreed.
I mean, I think they kind of felt, since this was like, all right, we're making the last one, that they just kind of went all out. All the deaths are aggressive. Like the chick that's eating the banana and she gets like stabbed through the neck.
I love that.
What did she do, man, to deserve that?
Except just sit there. She even bother him. She wasn't even doing anything.
Her character is ambiguous. It's like, is she a mute? Does she just elect not to talk? Why does she have a sign that says "fuck you" on it?
And this is the first Friday the 13th that lets us know what Jason's mother's name is, because of the Jason's mother, the tombstone behind the girl. Yeah.
And that death always cracks me, because I was like, well, she didn't do anything. He was just like, it's just like he needed energy, and that's why he had to do to like get it, because it's a combination of how aggressive it is, and then he's like grunting the entire time he's like stabbing her through it's insanely violent for no reason, but it's a great kill. And they have her, of course, like spitting the banana out with blood as it happens.
Listen, as a habitual mouth breather, I'm offended by your comment. I do a lot of things and I breathe heavily through them. That sounded weird. Let me try it again. Hold on.
As you came back to the conversation.
This is my input for the show, guys. Just one completely off the cuff, inappropriate comment every 4 minutes. So.
We were talking about part 4. We were just talking about how
please go. I heard something.
Relentless. Some of the kills, like it's probably the most like aggressive one of the bunch up to that point.
We'll see.
I would say. I guess
we're gonna get to the various things going on in part 4, but we talked about something earlier. I want to compare which is more comically just silly, stupid, I guess. Baghead Jason being easily distracted by Pamela's sweater, or Hockey Mask Jason being easily distracted by a bald child
by himself.
The by himself part is the cherry on top of it, because it's so ridiculous.
He's like, is that me? like, oh man, that is funny. Yeah, he's not smart. No one ever accused him of being smart. No one ever accused him of being smart. Just the kills in this one, I think I remember the most. Like,
I ask you. Sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh no, you were breaking up. What do we? I mean, do we think Teddy is the creepiest guy in any ensemble of this franchise? Like,
yeah, that makes sense.
There is a lot.
He's just watching those old black and white porn, or not porn, just black and white movies with naked people in them. Like, it's just
for no reason.
You're way too obsessed with this guy.
While trying to make moves on one of the twins while watching this movie, he's like, "Do you like what I am watching?" It's like Robert De Niro in Taxi Driver, thinking he's gonna get anywhere.
Yeah, and it's like I'm like I know it's the 80s, but like if I was hanging out with a group of my friends and one of my buddies was like, "Let's throw this on," while like we have a bunch of us trying to party and drink beer and hit on girls, I'm like, "What are you doing?" like this is why we don't invite you anywhere anymore.
Yeah, man. We've been meaning to talk to you about your like weird, creepy party favors.
Yeah,
we don't want you to come anymore.
Can't come.
You can tell Teddy's like the last guy in. He's like, I guess we need someone else to pay for this house to co-pay for this house. I guess Teddy's gonna have to do.
Yeah, he's got the money. Yeah, this was interesting too because like the ensemble is like pretty big because you have like what's going on at their house with them partying, and then you also have the stuff at with Trish and Tommy and the mom and all that. So there's like this separate thing going on there. And eventually those worlds kind of collide, but like as far as the ensemble goes, there's a lot going on in this one, which kind of makes me think like since they knew this was the last one, they were just like, hey, we'll just have a bunch of people on it. They'll all be here to mostly die off, and that's what they're here for. But yeah, I think that where do you think that Trish kind of stands as like a final girl?
Forgettable. I mean, her brother's the important one. She's not even really that relevant. She's not Corey Feldman, so your eyes aren't drawn to her as like, oh, I know that person. And she's not Ginny or Alice or Chris in terms of charisma. She's just there.
She's just there. Yeah. I think even in regards to the conversation though, across like all the franchises, she's just I'm not going to say this in like a mean way, but like the forgotten one. Like it's not a Lori, it's not a Sydney, it's not a Nancy. Even though she has the longevity of all of those characters across one particular series, right? Well, somewhat longevity, I should say. But yeah, she's just there. That's a good way to put it, as you guys said. So.
Poor Kimberly Beck. You're just there. You're just there. I mean, she does hold her own. Like, I mean, it's not like she like when it comes down to it at the end, like when I think she like attacks him like with the hammer when he's like trying to mess with Tommy and all that stuff too. Like she does like do her best to protect her brother. But I guess of the bunch, she is probably character wise. They don't do much to like really develop her at all. Like there's not much.
She survives and her brother survives, and then her brother is the main character for the next two movies. And I don't even think we hear about his sister. Like we don't even know what happened to her.
Yeah, she was like, I gotta get away from him. He's starting to act weird. I think that's what she probably did.
This movie also has the worst and most hilarious kill in the entire franchise is when Jason's killing Rob. And he's Jason stabbing him, and you hear him, oh my God, he's killing me! He's killing me!
I'm gonna just sit here and narrate my death. Don't mind me.
It's just more acting. It's like all these people coming in like, oh, I'm gonna kill it. I'm gonna kill it on this one. I always forget about that until it happens. And I'm like, yeah, I forgot.
You're like, he's like really narrating his death.
And then she goes, and she's like going like back and forth to like, she like wants to run down the hill, and then she runs back upstairs, and then she runs back down. And then when he's like quiet, and then when it's quiet, she's like, are you good? Like, if he's not telling you that he's killing him anymore, you should probably run away. He's probably dead.
Do you know what it reminds me of? Is such an off topic. Will Ferrell, who plays Mustafa in Austin Powers.
Yeah.
When he
you shot me right in the arm. Do
that. I'm still alive, but very badly burned.
Hello? Is anyone there? Starting to smell like peanuts.
By the way, Ted White is a very good Jason Voorhees.
I agree.
Like a very imposing, scary ass. And I think it's because Ted White was very serious in real life. Like it wasn't just a job. He was like all these crazy kids like not taking this serious, especially Corey Feldman. He said he especially liked scaring Corey Feldman, because Corey Feldman can be a brat. So that scene where he like crashes through the window and like grabs him, he knew he was going to terrify him, and he relished that. So like I thought that was like pretty entertaining that like he really just enjoyed like the job and like took it very seriously.
He used to be a stuntman for John Wayne, Gary Cooper, all these guys that used in the golden age of Hollywood.
So like real movies. Like,
yeah.
So he gets on this, he's like, what the hell is this? I just imagine him being very grumpy on set all the time.
Yeah, like just a pissed off old man. Like, I fucking worked with Cary Grant and John Wayne. We're gonna stab this little cocksucker for real. So they're like, hey,
Yo,
you're on set.
He does make a point about getting on like the director's case when they were filming that scene where they're out in the water and that girl gets killed on the raft and it was like super cold and she was like not comfortable and they were like, we need to do it again, and he was like basically like, no, like she like, fuck no, we're not gonna do it again. He was very protective of the crew, the cast and crew in that way as well too. It was probably the first time they had like a real professional on set.
I think so.
Like a real actual professional.
Because this was the year before Back to the Future, right? This is 1984. Yes, yeah, so Back to the Future. Yep. So you didn't even have Crispin Glover as Crispin Glover yet.
Yeah, and Crispin Glover doesn't really talk about this movie, does he?
No, not at all.
No, it's like you're like skip.
Man, I don't even think he talks about Back to the Future. He's like,
I was gonna say, I don't think Crispin Glover talks about anything. I think
he's like, I feel like about Willard.
No, I feel like
everything that you guys were talking about Ted White. He's just a grumpy old man somewhere.
Yeah, I feel like he'd be more inclined to talk about Charlie's Angels at this point, just to be weird and different.
Nah, man, he wants to talk about Willard.
And then of course, Tom Savini comes back and does all the makeup effects on this, and the best of it being how they just demolish Jason at the end, and like and you saying that you saw that one first as like a kid. That is a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah,
a lot.
When the machete goes right through his head, I'm like, 6-year-old me is like,
yeah,
what?
Because it's the initial like impact, and they just let him drop to the ground and just let him sink further and further down on it, and they just hold on that, and it's great for horror fans, but like, yeah, as a kid, you're just like, that is so much. But I mean, he felt like he was definitively like killing him off because it was supposed to be the final one. But like with anything that makes money, they're like, either it made money or Paramount was like, we need to fund one of our better projects, so like make another one and see if it'll make money. So what you get next a year later is Friday the 13th Part 5: A New Beginning. A lot of people would just call this the one with imposter Jason. Yeah. I'm just gonna say this real quick. I don't think it actually wasn't that unsuccessful. It was less successful than the last one, but it made $22 million when it came out. It made more than the second movie. Yeah. And on a $2.2 million budget, I think with time, I don't mind this one that much. Like, I think it's fine. And I don't mind that they pull the bait and switch. It's not really Jason. I think that's fine. It's like, to me, this is the Halloween 3 of the Friday the 13th franchise. Like that.
Yeah, 100%. I would say it's like you said, it's better nowadays where like I can watch all of the movies sequentially and it's like, oh yeah, here's 5, the weird one that, is just in my way to getting back to Jason. But it's almost just so ballsy that they actually release this in theaters where they're just like, yeah, we're going to put this in theaters. It's going to not be what anybody wants.
And then like, why aren't you okay with it? Like, why are you so mad? I mean, it was just,
you had 3 movies in a row of Jason. Now it's time to get excited for Roy.
And they literally did the same thing 8 years later with Jason Goes to Hell.
Yeah, they did. Literally. They didn't learn from their lessons there. They were just like,
No.
There is a kill in Part 5 that I love that I'm sure I'm not sure. The porta potty.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. The porta potty.
I like that. I like that for all the build. I like that for all the build up. The ooh baby stuff is like hilarious and like that character is just funny. I was like, of course, Reggie the Reckless. That's who his relatives, like what he would look like. Like just gonna go visit him while he's like hanging out with his girlfriend. Yeah, that one is a really good one. The other one I like is it's a couple in the woods after It's the one with the shears. Like, yeah, through the eyes is really cool too. And then the other one gets like, was it the belt thing like around his face, and he ties him around the.
Yeah, the strap.
This one
that
is
he
really
tightens. Yeah, this
one's
brutal,
really violent too, actually, compared to a lot of them. I would
and
say.
as we talked to, or as we kind of hinted at earlier, this is also the sexiest, nudiest one, because if I recall correctly, the director for this one was a porno director.
He was a porn director. Yep. Yep. Yeah.
And he did not stray far from what he knew.
Yeah, and Melanie Kinnaman, who played Pam, was like, he was not the best director because he was just like, she was trying to like, yeah, he wasn't really a supportive director in that way. Like he wasn't used to this kind of thing. So she talks about how like at the time the movie itself wasn't that great for her to make, but over time she has appreciated like. Because there are fans of this one too. I mean, I guess like with all these franchises, they all like there are people out there that like Halloween 5 somehow, or that like that like a Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5. There are people that are like, yeah, that's mine. That's my Freddy movie, or that's my Michael Myers movie. So they all have fans.
I agree. It's crazy.
I will tell you, I told you that with the Pinto Comics gang, we watched every single one of the Jason movies and rated them and talked about them. I'm looking over the scores right here to make sure I was right, and I am. John from Pinto Comics gave Part 5 the highest score he gave any of them.
Was he drinking?
It was definitely his favorite. And although you actually just admitted to it, or you actually just led into it, I will completely admit I really like Halloween 5.
Oh no!
We brought it up. I gotta ask: Are we a Tina fan?
Oh,
I
love
Tina.
Tina.
I think the hate for Tina is overrated. She's not that bad. She's just not. She's not
Rachel.
Rachel. Yeah, she's not Rachel. That's her problem.
Yeah, and she redeems herself in a big way. She sacrifices herself. Like she runs in front of the blade. Yeah. She's annoying. She is annoying for like the first hour.
They introduce a bunch of kittens. They don't kill the kittens. That's good.
That's true. Yeah, I agree with you there. That's good stuff.
So is the big issue here with like you guys is just that it's just not Jason? Like, do you have that same problem that other people have with this, or is it just not as far as the sequels go? It's just not as well made, or like
how much time do we have on the show?
No, go ahead.
Nah, it's as you said, like, oh man, we've got this franchise that's been making this money for the last 4 years. How can we get it back into theaters without making it seem as if like it's actually a part of the old series, but it's still got the name attached to it? Like, quintessentially, you could take the title of this movie off, and for what, 3/4 of it, not even call it a Friday the 13th movie up until the end. I mean, like even the ending's kind of a cop out. Like it's almost like a scapegoat, right? Yeah. So I don't know. I got a lot of problems. There's that one kill that we were talking about, the porta potty, which makes me laugh. But it's just the black sheep of the family. We'll call it that. So
yeah, the Jason thing obviously helps nothing, but it's not very well made. We talked about the director; he was not the height of competency for what he was doing. It's not just well made. No.
Yep.
I co-sign you guys.
Well, we can move on to where we get real Jason. So the back end of these sequels is we have Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, New Blood, Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X. Part 6 begins the whole like, all right, if you thought he was kind of human before, he's not anymore. I'm just going to speak on this as a whole. Like, I prefer the first 4 movies compared to the back end of these sequels. But I will say that of these, Part 6 is my favorite of the ones that
I talked earlier about how I had a 2-horse race with Part 2 and another one. Part 6 is the other horse. I love them.
Is it really?
Yeah,
really? 100%. I like that this movie knows what it is. Mm-hmm. Like, it opens with the Jason mocking the James Bond thing, and then the rest of the movie is just like, yeah, we know. we know what you're here for. Like, we're going to give you great kills. And this one's just like, yeah, we're going to be funny. It's fine. We're going to have jokes. And I think it really works. It really just embraces everything that is great about Jason, because there are legitimately scary moments in this one. There are legitimately funny moments in this one. I think it's just the best one at encompassing everything a Jason movie should be.
I agree 1000%. This is actually my favorite of the franchise as well.
I gotta go back and rewatch it then.
Yeah, I love this movie.
It you're watching Kurt's face through this, and he's like, every time we were missing, he's like, what?
It is for me. It's one. It's in similar fashion to like something like The Return of the Living Dead and Evil Dead 2, where it's a perfect horror satire. It knows what it is. It makes fun of itself. The kills are still gruesome, but you know what? Let's have a little fun with it too. Taking it serious, obviously led us to part 5. So let's just revamp everything. There's no way we can make a sequel from what happened in part 5. So let's just forget everything happened. Forget Tommy's in an insane asylum. Yeah. Let's have fun. And it's so iconic to some Friday the 13th fans, including myself, that like the Tommy Jarvis we see even in the video game that was released a few years ago is the Tommy Jarvis from this movie. I just think this in part 4, like head to head from my favorite ensemble. I love every single one, and I love that there's kids in this movie.
Yeah, they're
like finally right at the camp. Yeah.
Although I will say, for as much as I love about this movie, I think the kids are kind of the worst part, because I like the humor in this, but I think it goes overboard when those 2 little kids are like, well, I guess Jason's gonna kill us and we're not gonna grow up. I was like, that's a bit much.
I can't lie. That line when he's like, well, what did you want to be when you grow up? I did chuckle at that.
Okay. That's fair. Like, I really like the threat of like, oh God, he could actually kill little kids in this one. But yeah, then those 2 smarmy little kids, it's just like, I hope he actually does kill these 2.
Yeah, they were actually saying in a post-Scream world, this one has been reevaluated the most and has gotten better praise post-Scream, because they think it was like kind of like it did the whole like self-referential thing before that movie even did it. There was a lot of like kind of making fun of itself, and people actually like it a bit more than they did when it first came out. I certainly think it's fun, and if I need to have zombie Jason, this is the one I will take over the ones that follow.
This is the highest rated Friday the 13th on Rotten Tomatoes as well.
It is, and that's what I'm looking at right now. I was about to say that. That's funny.
What is it, like 44%?
46.
46 close. So very close.
Yeah, it's hard to say that a Friday the 13th has heart, but this movie feels like it has heart. It feels like they put a lot of work into this one.
So, Kurt, you're a little surprised that we were singing its praises.
No, not exactly. I just, for it to be your favorite, especially Dave. Like, I know Dave pretty well. Like, that's my guy. But I did not expect number 6 to be like his top. I had a whole different thought process going into this.
My number 2 is 4, if that helps.
No, again, like I wouldn't have predicted that. I still didn't see that coming. I still didn't see that.
Interesting.
Nah, B. I thought it was gonna be like 2, 1, somewhere along the line, like maybe 7 of like just caught your attention because of how fucking ridiculous it is, where she gets the psychic powers and brings it back to life, and then maybe 4, 6. So let me put it this way: Friday the 13th reminds me, the whole series reminds me a lot of the Fast and Furious movies. No 2 people have the same favorite list.
I mean,
yeah, that's true.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Kurt, you nailed it, because this series is about family.
Good night, folks.
No, that is true. Like everyone's going to have like a different ranking. That's really true.
Yeah. Again, like I said, I didn't expect to hear 6 as a collective favorite across the board here.
You shook him to the core. Very core.
Maybe this is the clip you use for Instagram. Me being like, what?
Yeah, what are you saying?
I will not stand for this pleasant talk of part 6.
He was like, we do a show together. What the fuck?
You're making me look foolish in front of these strangers, Dave. Come on.
G, do you happen to have the story about how CJ Graham became Jason for this one?
No. Let me. Do you have it?
I do have the story. I don't know who the original man that was cast as Jason, but he's known as
Because
Fat Jason.
he's the
Yeah,
one. He's the one in the scene with the.
Yeah,
is he-
Fat
oh, no,
Jason.
yeah.
And
That's
then
funny,
once
that's
they
funny.
once they saw that, they're like, you know what? It's not.
It was like,
Like,
this
this guy
work.
looks like he's been eating pasta for about 6 years. We gotta pull it back a little bit. So we need to get Kurt in here and train him. We gotta get it back. And then
Pasta can be a great part of a balanced diet, but not when you only eat that for 6 years, only every meal. So
CJ Graham is a great Jason. Just want to throw that.
yes, agreed.
Yes, and this one doesn't really have like. I mean, I know because it has Tommy Jarvis and he's the lead, but this one doesn't really. I mean, unless you're into Megan, it doesn't really have like a significant like female character. Either. I mean, I wouldn't call her forgettable, but she's not like my favorite either.
Nah, same. I agree.
Yeah.
She's hot, but
Yeah,
Oh,
she
yeah.
is. And her dad's annoying.
Oh, yeah.
It takes her dad forever to come around. But yeah, I was just thinking about that. How like this one doesn't really have like a female lead that really stands out. And this is also when you start to see some of the shine come off the franchise because this one made 19.4 million, still on the $3 million budget, so it still made money. But much like the genre as a whole, by the time this one came out,
Yeah.
was this like 1986? Like these type of movies
Yeah.
are starting to trail off. So I guess the solution they thought in the next one was to like, if you combine Jason Voorhees with Carrie, like we can have the ultimate horror movie. And I feel like that's what they tried to do with Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood.
New blood, baby.
I used to have this.
This is my shit. I love
I
it.
used to have this. I used to have this poster in my room as a kid. I got it from the video store because they had some extra ones in the back. They had like old ones. Yeah, they had some old ones, and like it didn't survive like into adulthood. I wish I still had it because it's probably one of my favorite like key arts from the franchise. But yeah, it came out in 1988. So again, 2 year gap between this one and the last one. Makes 19.1 billion
A mere
box office.
2 weeks after I came into this world and blessed it, everybody. Just a case in point. So there might be a correlation between.
There
the
might
two,
be a
I'm just saying.
correlation.
So
Jason
so
and Kurt simultaneously.
a new blood.
The new blood.
This
How
one
many
is
people have you killed with a buzzsaw and a stick, though?
no right. This one is of significance for a lot of fans because this is Kane Hodder's first
Yep.
go around as Jason Voorhees, and he's played them the most. And I mean, I guess I don't know if you guys feel he's played them the best, but like this is his first one, and I enjoy this one. I mean, not as much as I enjoy 6, but I still think it's pretty fun, and I do like the climax stuff with her using her powers against him in the most like ridiculous way, like the hanging light, just swinging that into his face and making him fall through the ground. I think she just does that thing where she just completely like rips his mask off with her mind too at one point. It's an interesting blend of stuff. I mean, I give him credit for trying something.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm a big fan of this one. I think it goes, the first half of the movie is incredibly negligible. Like you're just watching it and it's like, all right, this is a Jason with bad characters. It's fine. And then you get into the back half of the movie and it essentially becomes a Jason action movie, which we haven't really gotten yet.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think
it
that's why I
does.
like it.
It's so
That's why I
good
like
whenever
it so
you get
much.
to that point because
Yes.
you've never seen anybody who can like challenge him physically. It's always like, I have to shave my head and pretend to be him, or I have to put on a sweater. It's the only way you could beat him is to trick him. And this one, you finally have somebody who's like, I'm just gonna kick his ass. It's fine.
Yep. That's a good breakdown actually. It's pretty accurate. And we talked about this earlier, how these this movie is the one that has most of the characters that are just like either they're just assholes or one's a bitch, or one's like it's just like this one. I think this one of the bunch is like, all right, you're just gonna play to like your trope. We're gonna use you for that. You're gonna die accordingly because of that trope, and that's it. It's probably the worst offender in that case of the bunch.
Yeah. Can you imagine doing the auditions? I'm coming in to read for the slut. Okay.
The bitch. Like, oh, okay.
The evil doctor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've heard about Dr.
Terry
Cruz.
Kaiser, man.
Yeah.
Kaiser.
Is he the first? If I remember, we haven't really touched on like an actual villain human being in the entire run, right? I
Yeah,
think he
other
would be the
than-
first.
I guess other than Pamela.
Yeah, like
Yeah, like there's no other outside force usually. Yeah,
and
and,
yeah,
and he's shady. And he's shady as fuck.
Yeah.
Like truly shady. Just completely like using this girl's like basically like mental instability against her.
Terry Kaiser's claim to fame, fellas.
no, we
I want to know if they know
No,
it.
it. Oh, you don't. Do you? Okay, I won't say.
Do
it
they?
then.
Do either of them know it?
Not offhand.
Let's
no.
just read-
Terry
can-
Kaiser.
He's a dead
We can
guy.
burn.
That's Waking
He's
the
a dead
Bernies.
guy.
He's a dead guy.
Could you imagine
Oh,
being
okay.
most well known in your career as a lifeless character who's on two movies? Fucking Weekend at Bernie's, man. God, what a time to be alive.
I know.
Uh,
What do we think about Tina Shepard as far as Final Girls go?
she's okay. I liked her better in Carrie.
I like her better when she was Sissy Spacek. And it was 1976. Yeah, I think
the first one where the final girl is more important than Tommy Jarvis since part 3.
Mm-hmm.
that's true. Because her love interest doesn't do much of anything either, huh?
he's
Like,
just obnoxious
he's
and around.
obnoxious. He's obnoxious and useless. And
Yeah.
I think he kind of made a reference to that in one of the documentaries about how like he kind of like it was mostly her show. He was just kind of like he was almost the damsel, and she
Yeah.
was the one like saving him. But he is pretty useless in this movie. But overall, I mean, like you said you liked it because like the last half is pretty much like action packed.
Yeah, I enjoy this. This is not even probably. Definitely, it's in my top like 4 of the whole franchise.
Nice.
Good man. Good man.
Okay.
Welcome to the
Kane
club.
And to your question before, G, I do think Kane Hodder is the GOAT. Like
The goat, best Jason.
best Jason, I think.
Yeah, it makes what happens with him more disappointing when you get
Depressing.
to like the Freddy versus Jason stuff. Yeah. This one, yeah, made $19.1 million when it came out. Kind of in line with the last one, but definitely losing its luster at the box office. And then it loses it completely by the time we get to Jason Takes Manhattan. But what's disappointing about Jason Takes Manhattan is that it didn't have to be that way. This could have easily been like
Yeah.
it could have rejuvenated it in a pretty significant way if they had done what they promised.
That's all you
And
needed
they
to
don't.
do.
Yeah.
That's all you needed to do. I gotta say, this is one of there's many continuity errors in this entire franchise, but this is the one. This is the one. How does Jason, and I'm sure you guys know where I'm going here, how does Jason get from a lake in New Jersey?
Yeah, this is the
To
movie
an-
where we find out Camp Crystal Lake has a channel to the Atlantic.
Right?
Yep.
It's so true. Like it makes no sense whatsoever. But yeah, like we were talking about like where this was filmed. It said filming took place primarily in Vancouver, British Columbia, with additional photography in New York's Times Square and in Los Angeles. I think they were in Times Square for like a week, if that. I don't know, maybe even
If that,
shorter.
yeah.
Maybe shorter. I
They
do
touch
love
upon it in they touch upon it in Search of Darkness. The documentary, the Shutter documentary.
Yep.
They talk about the filming. I think it's like 3 days, 4 days.
3 days.
But they're actually in Times Square in Manhattan. So
Ugh.
Kurt, you live in Canada. Have you ever been to the sights and sounds of the alleys of Jason
Take
Takes
some of
Manhattan?
that.
no, never been to Vancouver. I hear it's a lovely city.
Nice.
I'm
I
on
mean,
the other.
I mean,
no, I'm
I
not
don't
even.
know
I
if
was
I-
going to say the other coast. I'm not even on the other coast. I'm kind of stuck in the middle.
Oh,
In
I-
Toronto.
I don't believe that it's lovely because I've seen this movie and I know it's full of barrels of toxic waste.
Very
actually,
true.
It's the national flower of British Columbia.
Barrels of toxic waste.
Barrels of toxic waste. So
I do love you talked about the poster for this one with him overlooking the city. I like the other
Oh,
one
man.
that
So
the one
good.
where he's cutting through the I love New York.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, it was like it had so much potential to like be so good if they could have done what they the director
Yeah.
talked about there being budget restraints and like that, and they couldn't really do the things that they wanted to do. I just don't know why, like, kind of even put it out there to do it if you weren't even gonna try to make it what it was. I mean, you put it in the fucking title. That's what I wanted. I wanted you to take Manhattan, not Vancouver, or a boat.
I'm trying to find. This is the one that I was looking. Okay, so guys, this is the one that I remember from, not with his mask, overlooking the city. This is the one that I remember. Viewers, or sorry, listeners, you're obviously not going to be able to see what I'm talking about. This is my favorite. This is the VHS that I remember, where it's his big goofy body. I'm coming to get you. That is the VHS cover that I remember, not the one where it's just the mask over top of it. And man, I was glued to this. I remember seeing it being like, yes, this is what we need to watch. So I kind of went backwards. I started at 8, and I was like, oh, that was okay.
This was a fine film.
and then ironically enough, I remember going through the series, but I went backwards. We went 7 through back to 1. A friend of mine and I. So yeah, I mean, interesting story there, I guess.
Yeah. And Deathstrike is in Lady Deathstrike is in this movie. That's a fun fact. Kelly Hu is in
right.
it.
That's right. Yes.
Yep.
I think she has more lines in this than she does in X2 though.
She couldn't have fewer.
Yeah.
Here's what correct me if I'm wrong on the facting on this one, but isn't this the only movie to this point where one Jason kills another Jason?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. It? And also this is actually foretelling of what's to come, because Ken Kresinger is also a stuntman on this movie.
He's a stuntman on this. He was plotting. Yep. He was plotting behind the scenes. He's like one day.
He's the cook in the diner scene where.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh.
So it's crazy.
I think this also continues the trend of like the forgettable final girls, because I don't really remember much about Rainey.
Nah.
Except I know she had she had a lot of trauma, and that's about
scared,
it.
Yeah.
she hates the water, and then that.
And her uncle really is a rough teacher.
He's an asshole. Yeah, she's another forgettable final girl with a forgettable love interest across these last 2 movies.
But I think this movie does confirm that Jason does love his animals, because in this one, he also lets the puppy go, because the puppy shows up at the end of the movie as well.
That's right.
Yep.
In the entirety of New York City, this puppy just comes up and finds its people.
This was, I think this is, at the time. Oh, no, it might be the poorest performing film in the franchise to date. 14.3 million, released in 1989. Now 1989 was the same year that was like Halloween 5 came out that year too. It was a rough year. I think the Nightmare on Elm Street 5 came out that year too.
Yeah, Nightmare 5 came out that year.
Nightmare 5, yep.
Let me ask you guys, what do you think is the best out of the 3?
Halloween 5.
I think. 5.
Yeah. Halloween 5 and Nightmare 5.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I already admitted to liking Halloween 5.
Yeah,
so for me, it's definitely Halloween 5.
I'm going H5. Kerr, what do you think?
Even if like Alice,
you can polish a turd, but it doesn't make it any less of a turd, fellas. Yeah, sure. I'll just join the cool kids. I'll say Halloween 5.
like begrudgingly, like yeah, cool.
If I have to,
if you want me to three pieces of shit. I mean, it has more moments that stand out. I guess they're all bad. You're right, but
and I also do like my favorite scene in the whole movie is actually the opening, where that song is playing and you actually show the city. I thought that really works well, and it sets you up to think that you're actually,
gonna be in fucking Manhattan. You're gonna. Yeah,
the one thing this movie definitely does well, we talked about kills. This has probably my favorite kill in the movie, where he just one punches the guy's head off.
Yes,
yeah.
So good.
Guys, I'm telling you right now, this movie is phenomenal. Okay.
Okay. It's so good.
Kurt, we're about to get to phenomenal. I promise.
Yeah,
buddy.
We're about to get to
I
phenomenal.
can already taste it, my friend. Yes.
We are there. We are there.
Wait.
Wait.
Back up. I might have misconstrued the question. Are we talking about what was the best out of the three movies that came out this year?
Yeah.
Or are we
No.
talking about what was the best?
In 1989, out of
In
those.
1989.
This.
I was going to
This
say,
is way
after what
better
you just
than
said
Halloween
about
5.
this, yeah.
No, sorry, I misconstrued that completely. I thought we were talking about the being fifth entries because I thought it was Nightmare 5, Halloween 5, and then you're asking me if Friday the 13th 5 in comparison. I was like,
no,
oh, I
no,
mean,
no.
like,
Yeah, all
okay.
the ones that came out this year. I go with
no.
5 for Jamie Lloyd. I mean, Jamie Lloyd's like,
Yeah,
let's go.
Danielle Harris. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or,
No.
they fuck over Rachel.
Yeah, man.
they fuck over Rachel in the worst way. After she went through all that in the previous one, just to have her get stabbed with scissors.
She even had Grady. She even had Grady cheat on her too, and like,
by that girl that's like cops do it by the book and that like long shirt. Yeah. So that is the final film up to that point to be released by Paramount Pictures. They were finally like, all right, we're just gonna sell off. We're done with it. New Line gets it. So that means they have this and A Nightmare on Elm Street. And in 1993, we get Jason Goes to Hell: The Final Friday.
let's go.
I'm gonna let Dave go in.
I do.
Grab that
Are we here?
microphone.
Are we here? Are we here? Let's go.
Buckle up, motherfuckers. It's gonna be all right.
Listen, I do want to go back to the multiple Jason theory. If there's any example of a multiple Jason theory, right here, all over the place.
Yep.
Because there's not just one Jason. There's about 6 or 7 Jasons.
Yeah.
Number 2,
Yep.
This is the weirdest fucking horror movie I've ever seen in my life.
Yep.
I still don't know what the hell is going on. Is Jason has a daughter? Jason there's another Voorhees here. Then we got a bounty hunter. I don't know what the hell he's doing because he hasn't even killed Jason. Where has he been for the last 8 movies? I don't know. I don't care. I'm just all about it. This guy's breaking fingers in a jail cell. Cool. Let's go. I do like, I do love, it's a similar one-punch kill where Jason punches that cook and it just like stuffs her face in. I think that's an excellent kill.
Yeah.
It does get a little weird. I'm not gonna lie. It's very, very out there.
A little weird.
Just a little bit.
When you
Just a
find
little
out
bit.
Jason is actually like a slug.
And as the French would say.
The most misleading, as much as I do like enjoy this for like all the wrong reasons, I think this is the most misleading Friday poster. I love the VHS box to this, but I'm still owed a metallic Jason mask.
Jason
I
mask.
still haven't gotten it. Like that's all I want. Obviously, this has probably the best ending since the first one with Freddy
Yeah.
grabbing the mask, and which shows that Kane Hodder is the only man to play both Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger because he is Freddy's hand with holding the glove.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not a good movie.
Not a good movie.
I have a great time with it.
Let me give you, this is part of the multiple Jasons theory. I want to tell you what's going on with Jason Goes to Hell. I'm going to blow your mind here. Jason Goes to Hell is a movie that takes place in the Friday the 13th universe.
So it's like
It's
Wes
a
Craven's New
movie-
Nightmare.
it's a movie that the people in the world where Jason is real and all the stuff with Tommy Jarvis and everything actually happened. It's a movie they made about Jason that like the actual Tommy Jarvis could have gone and seen. Jason's continuity ends in part 8. The toxic sludge in Manhattan turns him back into a child. That's the end of Jason. And what you have is they make a movie about the Camp Crystal Lake serial killer, and they just made up all this shit like, oh, there's probably a magical family knife. And there's probably this bounty hunter that was chasing him for years. They just made it all up. This is just a movie that they put forth in that universe.
And maybe he's a slug.
Maybe he's a slug. Maybe he was
Maybe
a
he's a
magic
slug.
We don't know nothing. Could be.
I did forget to add that also very briefly, you do see the Necronomicon in Jason Goes to Hell.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
It's really cool. There's some cool like visual like the practical effects and stuff and the makeup effects are really good. If that's what you're here for. It is a really weird movie though. And I'm just surprised that they kind of went this direction. Because like my assumption, if I was making this, was like I'm about to piss off a bunch of people that are into this franchise.
Yeah.
Because the main criticism of it is like, okay, there's no real like physical Jason for majority of the movie, and like they already went through that with part 5, even though there was a man, it wasn't Jason. They went through that already. I'm surprised that they like even like went this direction, knowing what they know, how fans react to stuff like this.
Well, they know what the reaction to part 5 was. Why did they think this was gonna work?
Yeah,
I agree.
Because money.
Or did they just do? They had that one money shot at the end. They're like, "This is what we're hanging our hat on. Is this moment?"
And that kill you were talking about, G, before, in terms of the makeup effects, the tent scene, that kill.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy.
When he just chops her off in half.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah, that's probably one of the best ones across the franchise as a whole. Yeah, I mean, of all the ones that, like, if I have to do a marathon and I'm like, I'm getting tired, I can skip. I don't have to watch this one, but I will, because I'm a completist at heart and I want to finish it. But it is it's the weirdest one of the bunch. But you know, like we said, all of these entries have their fans, and I'm sure there actually no. When I put this episode out there was one guy that was like, "Hey, I would love to come on and like talk about how like this is the best one of the franchise." And I was like, I thought about it, and I was like, but I felt like he wasn't going to talk until he got to this movie.
I don't care about any of these movies. I'm here to talk about Slug Jason, and Slug Jason only.
It is third to bottom of my list. Don't get me wrong, but I absolutely I'm all in on this.
Yeah.
I have one more thing I have to talk about with this movie is I frequent a comic book board where we come up with just like stupid like comic book fights like Superman versus Thor or whatever in fights. Somebody one day postulated Jason versus 2 Kodiak bears. And this topic went on for dozens of pages because what it turned into was, if the Kodiak bears ate Jason, would they become Jason? Based on this movie.
Based on this movie.
What if there was a Kodiak bear Jason?
That's what this movie does. It's that weird that it makes you think that this kind of stuff can happen.
And then you just branch off into Kodiak Jason versus Superman.
Guys, that reminds me of that movie that's coming out with Elizabeth Banks, the Cocaine Bear.
Cocaine Bear.
Oh, the Cocaine Bear.
Honest to God, it's going to be the movie of the year.
That was a fun email to get at Joe Blow. I was like, is this real? I was like, oh yeah,
Fuck
okay.
Yeah, true story, baby. So.
I was like, good God. This one made $15.9 million on a $3 million budget. So again, not a total flop, but probably didn't do as well as they thought it was going to do. And then we get to Jason X, and the only solution was to send him to space. This movie actually just turned 20 on April 26th, so it's a little over 20 years old now. I actually enjoy it for what it is.
Oh, it's great. There's no reason you shouldn't.
It's fun. It's fun.
It went back to part 6 where they just looked at the franchise and they were like, oh, 7, 8, and Jason Goes to Hell. We started getting too serious again. I don't know what the hell our problem was. So this one's essentially a comedy.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I love the whole the simulation where they're recreating Crystal Lake, and it's like the 2 girls are like, oh, do you want to smoke pot? Do you want to have premarital sex? It really knows what it is, and it's pretty self-aware. I think a lot of these franchises, they say you hit bottom when you send your antagonist to space. Leprechaun did it, Hellraiser did it.
With Jason, you find a new peak.
Yeah.
Anytime I see anybody reference Jason X, the only thing I can do is pop in with the comment of, guys, he just wanted his machete back.
That's all he wanted. And I also think it's funny, I'm just going through the Wikipedia page, and on the starring section, it just says Kane Harder to the right. It doesn't even bother listing the other people that were in the movie.
I will say, the best cameo in any of the franchises, David Cronenberg.
That's
at the beginning
right.
Of the movie.
Yeah.
Would have loved him if they replaced him with that toolbox doctor or whatever scientist. Would have loved Cronenberg just chewing
playing that role. Yeah. We were talking earlier about, hot final girls. This is the hottest cast in a
Oh
Disney
yeah.
movie. Oh
Yeah,
big
the most
time.
attractive cat. Yeah, because they're the
One
most
ugly person in sight.
because they're the most contemporary of the cast so far. Like we've got to the 2002, so like everyone was kind of good looking in that period.
Oh, wait. So we are including 2009. Hold on. No, the best looking cast is 2009. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Oh yeah, Amanda Wright.
Come
Yeah, and then the chick from
Come
the
on.
Flat, Danielle. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
All right. Second hottest cast. This is the last time that Kane Hodder plays Jason.
What a
Right?
shame.
Or no? Yeah. And,
last one. Yep.
And I always get kind of mixed up on what the exact reasoning was as to he seemed pretty sure that he was gonna do Freddy versus Jason, or he was confident that he was. And I mean, if you guys know more than I do about that, like why that wasn't the case.
So Ronnie Yu told him that he wanted someone bigger, taller, to play him in order for the headshots with Freddy, that Jason would tower Freddy, and that's
Over
pretty
him.
much it. And Robert Englund and Kane Hodder. Kane's taller, but not by much over Robert Englund. That's all
it all came down to height. this guy has played him across like these last few movies, and then it
bullshit.
and it gets to be Ronnie Yu's decision. I mean,
man, it's such bullshit. It's such bullshit to me because my biggest annoyance. I'm like, you're making a movie. It's make pretend. So you literally had Elijah Wood play a Hobbit for 3 movies. You can't make Kane Hodder look a little taller in a movie. Come on, man.
They make Sylvester Stallone and Tom Cruise look like average height people all
Exactly.
the time.
True. That is true. It's a sad fact that I only realized Tom Cruise was like 5'6", like about a year and a half ago. Like in my mind, Tom Cruise is my size. And I was like, oh my god, he's that fucking small.
Kurt, this isn't breaking embargo or anything, but wait till you watch Top Gun, because they actually they don't hide it at all.
Really?
I was dying. I was sitting next. My brother was like, I had no idea he was so short until he was in scenes with people who were significantly taller than him.
Like Miles Teller looked like he was going to take him to nursery school. That's how.
But that sucks. That's the only reason. I mean, like, and it has to be. I know it is really disappointing to him because he really wanted to do it. And Freddy versus Jason. This isn't like a proper Friday the 13th movie, but it was a total fan service movie for people that loved both franchises. They've been talking about doing this movie for years and years. Why I think Freddy versus Jason is important, though, is both of these franchises were waning at this point. They weren't really making money. Even though Wes Craven's New Nightmare is a pretty great movie, it didn't make a lot of money. And then, of course, you just had Jason X, which only made $17 million. And that movie had a bigger budget because of like the effects and stuff in with the space thing. But like what I liked was that Freddy versus Jason was successful, and it kind of kept both of the franchises like relevant still. So like, it was like they both kind of got to piggyback off that success of the film. Whether or not you guys think it was like successful at what it was attempting to do, that's another story. But I did like that it kind of kept both of those franchises relevant.
Yeah,
as far as being successful.
I don't know if you guys agree. I think this movie has aged really bad. Like,
yeah,
I love the fight scene, like the Jason Freddy dynamic. I love it. I literally hate every single human being in this movie. From like, there's no one that's like.
Why you don't love fake Jason Mewes?
Like Jason, I love that you brought him up. I'm like, poor man Jason Mewes, just hanging out there smoking a blunt, trying to smoke with Jason. Everything else outside, and Scott Farkas is like killing himself in the tub. Like it's everything outside of
Scott Farkas had no
fight.
right to grow up as attractive as he did, man.
Seriously.
It's just unfair.
Then just Kelly Rowland being Kelly Rowland.
And the worst, we're probably the worst line in the entire. I'm not going to repeat it here, but the worst.
No, we don't have to. But did she ad-lib that? Because they said they didn't write it. And all right, like, that's the only thing I could think of. If they didn't write it, and I can't imagine the director told her to say it, it just seems like a total ad lib if they
Someone-
didn't write it
someone I'm gonna guess someone's blaming someone in somewhere.
somewhere, and like no one wants to admit
Yeah.
that like they took because they were like, we know we didn't write it, we would never write a line like that. I mean, I even at the time we were seeing it in the theater, and I was like, that was a bit much and very unnecessary.
Agreed.
But you're right, all the human characters are awful. It's like when you, and no, this is to the lesser extent, but it's like when you go to see like any of the newer Godzilla movies, it's like, I don't care about any of you guys or the girls. I just want to see the monsters fight. Just want to see the monsters fight.
Also, gee, I know you love this girl. Monica Keena is awful.
I mean, I liked her on Dawson's Creek. back in the day. That was the only.
That's why you're my homie, G.
fucking.
I'll rap Dawson's Creek till I go.
Yeah, no, she played Abby, and Abby like wrecked her way through Kim's side before falling off the she fell to her death. off the creek. Off the creek into the water. But she was like, if you're going from like season 1, season 2, where they want to make like a teen show like more like bad, or like it wasn't trying to play it safe, like she was the one that tried to make them all like do a lot of bad stuff. She made Jin drink a lot. She did like all the stuff she needed to do in a few episodes and then died. And I thought she'd be great in this, but she was not great in Freddy vs. Jason.
One last question about this one for you guys. Do you guys think this is the cast being so poor is because they are trying to replicate essentially everything after Scream was trying to replicate Scream, even from Halloween H2O to this? Obviously not as effective as Scream. Do you guys feel they're trying there?
I feel like a lot of the movies that came out in this time frame from like 97 to 2003, like they all seem to have the same cast of like vaguely attractive, fast talking teenagers. Like everybody, I don't know about so much recreating Scream, but everything was like, we want to write Ken Williamson characters too.
Yeah, that's the vibe you kind of get. I mean, you can kind of, it's crazy that it kind of goes into the like early 2000s. Like it lasted that long, where they were like, oh, this is a new way to write teenagers or like young adults. Like you could tell that in like almost all those movies. But I agree. I think they were trying really hard to replicate that kind of like cast, and then all they gave us was fake Jason Mewes and Monica Keena not at her best, and
Catherine
Kelly
Isabel for not long enough.
Yeah, exactly. And then Kelly Rowland. But it was
couldn't even get the right Destiny's Child.
They literally got like the third worst.
Texting.
I just want you to realize the words that I choose there. The third worst.
I'm with you. And
like, you could get Michelle.
She's like, Ronnie used like, we need that girl that texts Nelly on Microsoft Excel.
But you know what? It sucks. It sucks to say this, but like during that time period too, there was also this need to hire people like her because they wanted to bring in like an ethnic audience to go see the movie. So that's why, like, with Deep Blue Sea and like Halloween H2O, you have like LL Cool J just there, like Busta Rhymes. Same thing with Halloween Resurrection. Like there was like this conscious effort of like, all right, we want to get like ethnic people to see it. So like, who's a popular ethnic person? Like, I mean, all right, Kelly. Yeah. They weren't going to get Beyonce. So like, you're like, all right, Kelly Rowland, she'll do. And I think that's the only reason she was even cast in this.
And LL Cool J's a man. He just wants to write romance novels. You got to give him that.
Oh yeah, I love his character in H2O.
Ladies
Me
love
too.
Cool J.
he spends most of the movie just reading his romance novel to his like sassy like wife, who's like, she's just so mad, just so mad. But Freddy vs. Jason was very successful. I mean, $116 million worldwide on a $30 million budget, which is something that both franchises needed. And and then in 2009 we get the remake, which is frustrating for me in a lot of ways because like it had potential to be very, very good, and it drops the ball on a lot of levels. But I'll let you guys kind of go into it first. I'll just say I remember being like deeply disappointed because the opening is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right. And I was like, all right. Yeah, I'm like, I'm here for this. And then after the opening, it just gradually falls apart.
Yeah.
Man, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say it's not so much a Friday the 13th movie as the Hills Have Eyes movies with a guy wearing a hockey mask.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a Jason.
Yep.
Like Jason doesn't take people hostage. Jason doesn't lock women up in cages. He's not
Exactly.
running around. Jason shouldn't have Green Arrow level archery skill.
Yep.
I agree. I like Derek Mears as Jason a lot.
Yeah, he was good.
I wish he was in a better movie, and seeing his interviews and just seeing him at panels and meeting him like 5 or 6 years ago, he shows that he loves the franchise. So for him to get stuck with what he got stuck with I hope he gets another crack at the apple. I'm with you, G. I think the first 25 minutes of that movie are literally some of the best in the entire franchise, and then the movie happens.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like two tonally different movies. Like, it's just like, I feel like someone else stepped in and started directing it. Like, it's just so weird.
The odd choice, and I think I was already out by this time, but the odd choice to kill Jenna.
Yeah. What for?
What are you doing? Like, what? No. Like, I was completely out.
Like, that wasn't even shocking in like a fun way. And like, I tell what they maybe were trying to do, like, oh, you think she's gonna make it to the end? But I was like, that was just, even as someone that loves horror movies and loves death scenes like that, I was like, that was just fucking mean. It like didn't even have to happen. Didn't even have to happen.
And then the odd character playing the same guy from Transformers and named the same.
Oh, Trent! I love Trent. Trent is probably my favorite horror character in any movie. You cannot convince me he's a bad guy in this movie. He's essentially the human antagonist, like you talked about. You can never convince me. Everyone is addicted to him. I would act like Trent too in his situation. His girlfriend runs off with friggin' Sam Winchester, who's rude to him the first time they meet. All his friends come over to his house and start breaking his shit. He invites them to his cabin and they start wrecking his shit. The one goes off into the barn and starts drinking his liquor. I'd be pissed off at everyone too if I was Trent.
Listen, for a guy that supports, and I think my fellow co-host Kurt agrees, for a guy that supports Johnny Lawrence and feels Danny LaRusso is just the absolute worst, and I blame everything on Allie with an I.
Yep. We're on the grave with that one.
So I totally understand what you're talking about with Trent.
I love Trent, man. I want a remake of this movie where Trent is the hero. I want to see this movie from Trent's point of view. He gives women amazing compliments on their bodies.
Oh god, yeah. I was so convinced that Travis Van Winkle was like this in real life. I met him once, and I didn't want to say anything to him because I was like, he's just so good at being a douchebag. He's actually very nice. But I was happy with having a character like this be this much of a douchebag and be this much of an asshole, as long as the payoff was going to be worth it. And to me, when he died, it made it worth it for me. I was like, if you're going to have someone like that around, like, destroy him. completely destroy him. And I was okay with that payoff, by the end of this one. But yeah, like, it was just a lot of wasted potential. I mean, like, the Platinum Dunes did this remake, and they also did Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I kind of feel like they were just trying to copy a lot of that stuff and not make it its own unique thing. They were just like, okay, it worked for Texas Chainsaw, let's do it for this. And that was the impression I got with what they were attempting to do.
Yeah, I echo that. I completely echo that. I mean, from a box office standpoint, it's a hit, man. They don't care. They doubled up, right? Who gives a shit? But I think now you're in this kind of cuckold position because it gets crapped on, and now it's a rights problem, right? So
yeah,
I guess that leads us into what next, right? So
yeah,
what do you guys think next? I want to propose the question. What do you want to see next?
I did this for a League of Cinephiles thing.
I was there for that one.
Yeah, I'm still not over that, by the way.
Because it was actually it was a good idea.
So
was this the horror trivia clash?
No, it was actually Battle Royale, and we were asked to name a classic movie that you'd want to remake. And I'm not touching The Godfather or anything like that. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to touch on a movie, a classic, Friday the 13th, not the greatest movie, but a movie that's already been remade. And I touched on this idea where rather than we get Jason Voorhees up front, it'll never happen because I don't think they would ever go to this direction. We get a more, you want to touch on elevated horror and bring this modern horror audience in. Why don't we just create a psychological horror film on Pamela and how she deals with the trauma of Jason's death? You still get her killing everyone at Crystal Lake, but from her perspective, her POV. You see her after every kill reacting to, well, I don't know how she deals with it, but you see her on screen reacting to every single kill that she has in the movie, ultimately leading to the final battle with Alice. And boom, we have a franchise restarted, rebooted. We don't need a legacy sequel for this one because I think this franchise has gone in so many different directions that we kind of need a fresh start. And we can kind of pay much more respect to Pamela in terms of a deeper dive than we've given her before. It's not going to happen because there's no way in hell that they're going to bring back Friday the 13th without Jason as the antagonist. But I would wish they would go in a different direction. And then we get to Jason, but not right away.
Guys?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I agree with it when you said it during that League of Cinephiles thing, and then I was like completely surprised that they were like, no, that argument doesn't work. I was like,
what a surprise,
I was like, that was a good argument because the only thing I could say that against it, and it wasn't even me being against the idea, is that a studio would be too afraid to do it because it doesn't have Jason, so they want that to be the selling point. Someone asked me, do you think that they could do with Friday the 13th what they've done with Halloween, how they've restarted that, and I don't think they can really do it in the same way that would be successful.
No.
But I would love to see that kind of remake, like a legit Friday the 13th remake where he's not there the first time, and then you build up to it and bring him in maybe in the second one like they did in this
hell, he could even still be in it, but she rescues him. You find out that she rescues him and she's been raising him and he's just hanging there like was mentioned before with a burlap sack.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what I was about to say. I think that you want to, if you get back to the roots of part three, pardon me, with the hockey mask, or sorry, not with the hockey mask, but the sack in part two, you go back to that and that can be a genuinely terrifying experience, but you got to bring it back down to its roots. And I think that's what I want to see. If they come back to this, you don't need the hockey mask. You just need someone scaring the shit and killing teenagers at a fucking camp, right? It's lore and its excitement has always come from the idea of what we as kind of diehards for it look back as the quintessential ones, 1, 2, and 3, and what makes those so classic is that idea of these kids being so kind of naive that they're literally being hunted down like animals while at camp. You take that core fundamentals and you have a guy who's, or even if you spin it, okay, Dave, I'm going to kind of take a little bit of your idea here, not from the idea of his mother, from the POV of his mom. You flip it and throw a curveball, have his mother somehow die at the camp, and then him essentially come and try to fuck up all these kids that have essentially led to it's very in the same vein of a movie that I think out of the three of us here, we were torn apart on, Leatherface, that came out a little while ago. But at least Dave growls, right? So, but it's that idea of again
that bus massacre was worth a little bit of my time though. Just a little bit.
The LOL moment of 2022, and I don't think any comedy or any movie will top this, was the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Elsie Fisher just hanging out and the car is just riding away while her friend's head gets chopped off. I'm like, what am I screening right now? Why do I have to review this? It's, oh my god, so crazy.
Oh Jesus. But yeah, I like that idea too. I think that's a pretty interesting take on that.
I don't know. I think in this case, too many cooks in the kitchen. And not enough cohesiveness. That's the reason why I think 13 years later we are without Friday.
We're still in court.
Yeah.
Is there any insight to this?
So I don't know what to believe anymore. I read an article a year ago saying that it was settled, but obviously it's probably not because there is
within the last few months, there was something that came out that was like, oh, it's over.
Yep.
And then nothing else came after that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to get into. I didn't get a chance to tell what I would want to do in a new Jason movie.
Go for it.
Yes, I want to
Yeah, go
hear.
ahead.
Bear with me here. This is going to be a little. I talked about how I think like the original Friday the 13th continuity ended at part 8. I want a Jason movie that takes place after part 8. I want a coming of age story of young Jason growing up in New York City. And he doesn't have a family. He's like an orphan in New York City, and he has to make it on his own. And he meets a girl, and he falls in love. And then I don't know, he finds out like, oh shit, this is who you used to be. And you have this coming of age story of young boy Jason wrestling with the destiny of what he's going to grow up to be while trying to make his way in the world.
We could turn it into a Looper situation too.
I feel like
young Jason has to hunt down old Jason.
Yeah.
Somebody takes him under his wing and is like,
or like
I know
Gemini Man. Do you guys remember that movie?
Oh god,
With
yeah.
Jason Voorhees.
There's good Jason and there's bad Jason. Yeah, someone takes little kid Jason under his wing and he's like,
Yo.
this guy's gonna grow up to be a mass murdering killing machine, but I'm gonna make him a good guy.
Guys, we're on to something. I think if anybody's paying attention at Platinum Dunes or Paramount or New Line or just in general across
or
Hollywood,
whomever.
guys, give us a call. We're here at the top5m.shop talk and back to the Blockbuster. I think we have some great ideas, fellas. I really think we do. So
there are definitely some decent ones in there. There's like, I mean,
no, we're only going with the last idea. We're only going
coming of age Jason's story.
Coming of age story. Fuck the rest of them. I don't even like my own idea anymore. So.
Well, I mean, I guess that brings us to the end of it. I mean, like, it's kind of crazy that this, like, the franchise is where it is now, where it's like kind of dormant. There's nothing we can really do about it because it's just wrapped up in legal issues and stuff. And, I kind of feel that, I mean, even though this isn't the same situation, but even like something like Nightmare on Elm Street, it's kind of like been dormant for a while too. Like all these kind of big ones other than Halloween, and then that's about to end, I guess.
Hopefully.
I would love with that franchise if it was just Halloween ends and they were just like, all right, that's it. We're just gonna. I don't care how much money it makes.
I know this isn't about Halloween, but I gotta ask you guys, since I haven't talked to anyone about this, are you guys nervous? Because I'm terrified they're gonna mess this up.
Yep.
Oh, they're
I'm a little
literally.
They're definitely
when you hear
mess it up.
Jamie Lee Curtis say there's gonna be a lot of pissed off people, it's like fuck.
Yeah, and she's into that. She likes kind of pissing everyone off.
I read the quote last week and I was like, God damn it. Like
I thought about a horrible theory that
yeah.
I hope doesn't happen, but I wonder if Allison kills Lori.
That would piss me off.
Yeah. I'm literally thinking of like what would piss me off. And Allison, it gets supernatural and we find this part I would like. We find out that Silver Shamrock has been running shit the whole time. And listen, I gotta bring back Halloween 3 here somehow. Silver Shamrock is running the whole thing, and you find out there's a Silver Shamrock icon inside the Michael Myers mask. And then Allison takes it and tries to be cute and puts it on and tries to kill Michael, but in turn she goes ahead and kills Lori. Done. End of the franchise.
Good night, folks.
There we go. That's it.
I actually thought the way Halloween Kills was going, I thought they were building to Karen becoming the new Shape.
Yeah.
And then it didn't
Really?
happen. Or I really thought that's where that movie was going the entire time. And then at the end, she's staring out the window and I was like, oh, here it is. Like she's becoming the Shape after everything that's happened to her. And then Michael just shows up and kills her. I'm hoping that was a psychological thing. Like that was the spirit of Michael killing her. And that's what Jamie's talking about is the killer in the last movie is Karen. Because look, we always need more Judy Greer in our lives.
Oh, I agree. 1,000%.
It's true.
Yeah, I was none too pleased when she died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's even worse because I read the script because it leaked and I had nothing to do during COVID. So I read most of it. That's not even the ending. The ending is a director's cut where he kills her. Jamie, Lori calls, and then the shape picks up, and then you hear her breathe. But when they decided to jump 4 years, they decided obviously they couldn't.
They couldn't do that.
Make any sense anymore?
Yeah, I actually didn't hate that movie as much as a lot of people did. I was at least entertained by it.
I didn't hate Kills at all.
I didn't hate it.
It's not good, but I thought it was enjoyable. I enjoyed sitting in the theater and watching it.
Yeah,
and I was also
with the packed theater, it was fun.
I was also like, you go Kyle Richards as well. I was like, good for you. She was, and I was like, good for you, because I was like, I thought maybe all that time being a Real Housewife, like she wouldn't remember what to do as an actress, and I was like, good for you. Held her up.
My only real complaint, I mean, like, I'm with you. I thought the movie was fine. I have continuity issues. Like, you say Halloween 2 is not involved, but then you show Annie being brought out of the house. Okay, sure, guy. We're not going to bring back Halloween 2. But I guess my biggest issue is, like, why they got to do my homie bracket like that?
That's very true. Well, I mean, so we can wrap it up now. You know, because we could probably talk all night about different horror movies and stuff. Because that is just who we are. But I wanted to thank all of you guys for coming on and being on to talk about it. Kurt, you too, because I know you were coming off of like doing something for work and you still jumped on, so I appreciate that as well. Everyone's website podcast will be linked at the bottom of the description for this episode, so make sure that you check out all of their stuff because they are some of the best to do this, and it's always a pleasure to talk to them. So thank you guys so much for being on, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
This went 3